Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another pair of rounds in the UK Sim Racing community's Porsche Cup Season 7, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today we mark rounds 9 and 10 with a visit to the classic American circuit known as Road America. Located deep within the Elkhart Lake countryside in the state of Wisconsin, this American circuit is widely regarded as a classic for the simple reason it blends together some of the simplest aspects of motorsport and gives it a nice twist on the fact that whilst we do have a combination of multiple extended straights and tight corner sequences, it is a lap that seems relentless. It's never ending, and over 4 miles of racing circuit from lap to lap, we'll see our drivers have to be bold on the brakes and smart on the throttle should they wish to come out on top, with a key theme around here being a corner exit. Get it right and you'll carry 1 to 2 miles an hour, more speed out the corner compared to your rivals, and with a toe also in hand, you may be able to find your way in front of your rival going into the next corner. Meanwhile, get it wrong, you could be vulnerable to an overtake from behind, alternatively falling off the lead pack. But as we get ready to go racing today, and were it to bring to a close the first 2/3 of the season, we'll take you through the schedule very shortly, but you're tuning live by the official UK Sim Racing broadcast, available only on YouTube at youtube.com, and search for UK Sim Racing and UKSR. And if you are tuning in right now and you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe so that way you can stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts and highlight reels which follow. Indeed, this content only available on UK Sim Racing's YouTube channel. And in the content booth, you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain's Pit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I'll bring you all your racing action today, indeed for the entirety of the season, and what a season it has been thus far, and we've still got plenty to come. Speaking of which, let's take a look at our calendar. And as we can see, with the fact that we rounded up our second endurance race round last time out in Spain at the Circuito de Jerez, we make our way more towards the traditional sprint and feature formats for a few rounds in quick succession. But we started all the way back on the 29th of June with a visit to the United States of America, the first of 4, and today's the last of the 4, and we began at Road Atlanta. Now, the roller coaster ride of road racing in the United States of America in rounds 1 and 2, we got to see Olympus Esports absolutely dominate on the scene, and in particular Thomas Cope really established himself as an early leader. Near round number 3, we got to see the circuit Spa Frameworks deliver up our first endurance race round of the season, and whilst in the gold class it was still Thomas Cope who was leading the way, in the silver class we got to see Jeremy DeBover, the home hero, bring about a brilliant win in the silver class, and with it on the 6th of July extend his championship lead. In rounds 4 and 5 to wrap up the first half of the season before the mid-season break, we made our way to Watkins Glen International, and there essentially was UK Sim Racing meets Porsche Cup meets NASCAR, with a Cup Classic layout playing host to our drivers, and it was fast, it was furious, and whilst we did see Thomas Cope's run of wins come to a premature close, but at the same time we got to see Olympus Esports continue to run high at the top of the standings, and also in the silver class plenty of battling. With the Boba being absent, we got to see the rise of Adam Greason in particular, as he made sure to score major points in the absence of the championship leader. But after the mid-season break, we made our way back onto the tarmac for the 27th of July. And that was to a visit to Virginia International Raceway, or VIR, and located in the state of Virginia. In rounds 6 and 7, we got to see plenty of battles, and indeed the circuit catching out many a driver, but some of the fundamentals really withstanding, and we got to see some fantastic performances in the silver class, particularly from the likes of Sean Crowley Swash, and also in the gold class from Ryan Walker. In round number 8, last time we made our way to the Circuito de Jerez, and in Spain on the 3rd of August in our second endurance race round, where it definitely was turned up in terms of the heat, with tyres absolutely being run threadbare by the end of the racing. Many a driver complained about the fact they had minimal compound available, but we got to see in the gold class that despite the intense pressure that we saw placed onto him by Philipp Hammer, the defending champion, the 2-time gold champion, Thomas Cope was able to hold on to victory, and we'll tell you about how that's updated the championship standings very shortly. And in the silver class, we got to see a very smooth drive to victory from Jeremy DeBover, and really established himself now as the firm favourite in the silver class. But after today, on the 17th of August, we're making our way over to Canada for the circuit Charles Villeneuve, known as the Montreal circuit, if you will, for rounds 11 and 12, and then we'll see our drivers take on the Hybrid Street circuit, which is one to be raved about, and more on that next week. And then for rounds 13 and 14, our final sprint and feature doubleheader, it was the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, albeit we go into the time machine and make our way back to 2008 in the United Kingdom, and there we'll get to see our drivers take on the original fast layout of the Silverstone circuit, and indeed we'll be seeing our drivers reach higher speeds than they would on today's Grand Prix circuit. It is certain to be a thriller on the 24th of August. Then we bring it all to a close around 15 of 15 at the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit in Japan, and that'll be right at the end of the month of August, and who will come out to the top and be crowned our champions, we'll find out then. We've still got a way to go, and we'll speak of which, let's give you an update on the journey for our championship standings thus far. So after 8 rounds of 15, we can see in the gold class standings in the Drivers' Championship, it's Thomas Cope that leads the way. With 142 points versus Philipp Hammer's 97, the advantage continues to grow, and with 45 points now being the advantage, plus also the fact that Thomas Cope does have a drop score already in effect, with the fact he did miss one of the previous rounds, and I believe it was at Virginia International Raceway, unless my memory is mistaken. It means that Cope's score right now definitely is the maximum he could possibly take for every round, and therefore everyone's got to try and chase him down. But Philipp Hammer has turned over a leaf since the mid-season break, and we've seen the Team Germany driver absolutely charge on strong, and could he potentially finally notch another win today and find a way to get ahead of Cope? That'll be the challenge that confronts him. Dan Seji in P3, only a further win is 11 points behind the Olympus Esports Titan driver, trying to echo the sentiments of the Olympus Esports Vanguard lead driver Thomas Cope. And you can see just behind Seji, Patrick Thompson by 4 points, the second of the Olympus Esports Vanguard drivers there, and Thompson coming on to form as well. Corey Lazarus only 2 points over the top 4 now into P5. A great set of performances last time out from the Blackout Motorsport driver at the Jerez circuit, and once again demonstrating his tenacity to be able to manage the tyres over the longer duration races, and we'll get to see that in the feature race today, there's no doubt about it. And then Igor Koz in P6 ahead of the rest of the field, and really right now marking the best of the rest with the top 5 breaking away. It's a 40-point gap to Igor Koz, and then Paul Busby a further 3 points behind. And then Danny Lee in P8 there, the ever optimistic and positive driver of the privateer, and picking up one of his best performances of the season at Jerez, and continue to go from strength to strength. Still 30 points, Daniel K. Sproul, the Blackout Motorsport driver, not in attendance last time out, and therefore losing out some critical points. And then Simon B. Bammer completed the top 10 there for UKSimRacing admin team. Behind him by 4 points, best of the rest P11 is Joe Newman for Empire Motorsport, with 2-point advantage over Kelly Ramadan. Then James Parker, Ryan Walker, and Emil Koopmans complete your top 15. We can see the fact that it's Walker ahead of Koopmans based on result countback only, when Nathan Foster a further 2 points behind in P16. Lee Deemer, not able to have a good day last time out at Jerez, but continues to strive for some major points on the board. He stays P17 at this time. The Pixel to Aberdeen drive being followed up by Jack Atkinson. Next, Mark Jones and Roxanne Marshall complete your top 20. Outside the top 20, based only on result countback, is Lucas Romano for DBR behind the 24-hour Punty People driver of Roxanne Marshall. Both of them with 3 points there. And also 3 points for Lars Vodsik, who made his debut last time out for Leaf Esports, and indeed got some good points on the board to make his debut in his campaign. Next up in Liverpool, Dean Powell and Lee Holmes to complete your top 25, with Ashley England and Marcel Fritsch completed the standings, and Marcel Fritsch on negative points due to post-round penalties. We then come on to the silver class, and here we can see at the top of the standings it's a similar complexion to the gold class. In fact, it's a 50-point advantage to Jeremy DeBoba, with the DBI Boba Challenge driver continuing to pull away. However, in the battle for P2, things are starting to heat up considerably, and we got to see plenty of battling at last time out from Chris Eddersford, who fought hard in the end to take home a podium place, and with a hold of Chris Rance, and indeed bring home some major points to move him into P2, with Adam Greaves having difficulty in falling to P3 for the first time in the last few rounds. Behind the FR20 Sim Racing driver is his teammate Steve Hobbs, with FR20 Sim Racing looking to arrest the decline in form. And then Alex Hiscox in P5, the Team Wales driver, also bringing home a great result at the Jerez circuit and looking to continue that strength as the Wales driver makes his way up into P5 of the standings. 13 points behind him, it's going to Humberstone, with Chris Rance moving quickly into P7 for CSimRacing UK. And then we have a further 8 points to Sean Craddy Swash and then Cameron Smith and Wayne Basson to complete your top 10. Outside the top 10, based on result countback only versus Basson, is Sean Doby for Clicks Racing, and there's a further 11 points to Jeremy Story, with Mark Oliver, Jules Bounce and Richard White completing your top 15. And then outside the top 15, to round off the top 20 is Didi Devalaving, the driver who right now definitely trying to refine that form for earlier on in the season. We've got to see some strong performances in the first 3 rounds, but he has fallen off to a degree. And it's Paul Joseph Clistead and Aaron Tresler, with Steve Lafford and Alistair Hatcher completing the top 20. Then outside the top 20, Daniel Fritz for Whiskey Runners Racing on 0 points, and minus 7 points for Craig Shaw P22 based on post-round penalties. Then coming on to the Team Championship standings, last but not least, Olympus Esports Vanguard continues to pull away at the top of the field at 224 points to Team Germany's 95 points. If my mathematics is correct, that's 129 points their advantage now. The Olympus Esports Vanguard definitely trying to put this one to bed before the season is over. Team Germany, meanwhile, have to fend off the challenge of Blackout Motorsport, only a point between the two teams. Olympus Esports Titan a further 2 points behind there, so the battle for P2 is heated up, with Effect Simulations and FTR Esports contesting P5, but it's FTR Esports who are ahead currently. Empire Motorsport in P7, they're doing well to hold off UKSimRacing admin team who've seen a resurgence in form. There's Sobsport ahead of FR20 Sim Racing to complete the top 20. A third point behind in P11 is iRacing DCW Racing with 6 points to Apex Bissers. Then 24 hour plenty people fix Auto Aberdeen and DBI Bubba Challenge complete your top 15. Albeit DBI Bubba Challenge only inside the top 15 based on result countback, with Clicks Racing and ATEC Tech Racing behind, all on 8 points apiece. Then we have Team Wales, Tresla Racing and DBR completed the top 20, with UKSimRacing UK get their first point on the board of the Team's Championship last time out and looking to get more points to move into the top 20. And they're 1 point ahead of Whiskey Runners Racing, Top Gear Sim Racing and ATEC Tech, who complete your standings. So now let's go on to our circuit for today, and it's none other than the full course layout of Road America, located near Elkhart Lake in Sheboygan County of the state of Wisconsin in the US of A. As we can see from the circuit map provided us by iRacing.com, thank you to them for their wonderful circuit maps that come with the absolutely fantastic simulator. This is a circuit that brings together a variety of straights and also some very tight corner sequences. But if we were to tell you with regards to a little bit of trivia of this circuit, they opened in 1955, and the layout you see on screen right now is the layout that has stood the test of time. Very little change has been made to the layout. Indeed, all the 14 corners are the same ones which the circuit opened up on, and therefore this will become a circuit that's really stayed throughout the ages. And one of the mainstay is the fact that it absolutely generates fantastic racing action of whatever class races around here. But as our drivers make their way down the start finish straight and up towards turn number 1 today, they'll find themselves confronted with a trail braking zone and the sweeping right-hander at turn 1, which then proceeds to run into the downhill braking zone at turn number 3. They're hard on the brakes, our drivers need to be wary of understeer under braking, but as they make their way through the right-hand right-angle corner, it's then onto the charge down towards turn 5 via the moraine sweep. In the run downhill into the braking zone for turn number 5, we're going to expect that corner to be one of the biggest hot points with regards to battling under braking, and plenty of overtakes expected there. And also our drivers will need to be wise to the fact that if they don't get the exit out of 5 right, they could be vulnerable for a quick overtake into turn number 6. Albeit the circuit map doesn't show it, but it is a rise over a ridgeline into turn number 6 and a blind braking zone effective for the left-hander. As our drivers then make the way into turn number 7 through Hurry Downs and heading up towards turn 8, they come into perhaps the trickiest corner of the circuit at turn 8 with a very tight apex, and it's very easy to get it wrong and run wide. But survive the corner, they'll then make their way into the carousel turns 9 and 10, which will about return to full throttle as soon as possible with the charge out at turn 10 and up towards the King, the fastest corner on the circuit at turn number 11, the right-hander which will be flat out in high downforce machinery, but for our drivers I think it will be a short lift off the throttle, but they'll try and carry as much speed as they can all the way out to Canada corner at turn number 12. As they make their way out the right-hander, it's then uphill through turn number 13 and 13A before coming into turn 14 to complete the lap and start it all over again, albeit not without an uphill charge on the start-finish straight onwards towards the next lap. Now, to give you a quick reminder of the rules, qualifying-wise, a lone qualifying format shall be used, while drivers will have 8 minutes to set the best possible time. Race-wise, the races shall commence via a standing start, as is the tradition of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup, with the sprint race grid being set based on the results of qualifying, that's a given, and then the feature race grid being a partial reverse grid based on the results of the sprint race, with the top 8 positions inverted. So it means the winner of the sprint race will start P8 on the feature race grid, meanwhile the 8th place finish will be started on pole, and the drivers who finished in between will fill out the grid, and then those who finish P9 and downwards in the sprint race, well, that's exactly where they'll start for the purposes of the feature. There will be no mandatory pit stop requirements in either of the 2 races, so if we do see our drivers come into the pits, it's for 1 or 2 reasons. Firstly, it could be for damage and they have a 1 fast repair available. Alternatively, they picked up a drive-through penalty, and that's for 15 or more instant points being accumulated. But that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. We're all here for the racing. And as we look back to our live circuit pictures, let's take you through our schedule for tonight. Times in British Summertime, that's BST or Universal Coordinated Time +1, UTC +1. And as we can see, in just under what is a minute's time, when we get ourselves set to go into qualifying. In fact, we can give you an update. It will be 2 minutes from now when we're going to qualifying, and all our drivers out in the lone instance of the circuit, looking to get their best possible laps in, uninterrupted by other drivers sharing the circuit with them. And we'll make our way immediately to the grid for our first race of the day. It'll be the round 9 sprint, 12 minutes in length at 8:10, after which we take a brief breather before returning just shy of 8:30 this evening for the feature race. The round 10 feature, 30 minutes in duration, and we'll there with 2.5 times the race duration. The tyres are definitely going to be feeling the wear, and who can manage them to the utmost, that will be the challenge that confronts our drivers. With everybody getting themselves comfortably set now, we're not too far away for going into the qualifying. And as we do see James Parker, the iRacing DCW Racing driver, making his way there through turn at number 8 and up towards number 9. We're coming on through here, and right now P7 in this practice session. And we do reckon that for James Parker, it has been a trial by fire in the fact that he is a 2-time champion of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup. Back when we didn't necessarily have classes and it was every driver on the grid was part of a single class, but we'd like to refer to him as a gold standard driver, and therefore he is a 2-time gold champion, much like Philipp Hammer, if you will. And well, it's been a difficult start to the season for Parker, but last time at Jerez it showed some good growing strength, and also at the Virginia International Racing Raceway, and he'll be looking to try and go one step further today and potentially target his first top 5 of the season. Meanwhile, we do look to Jeremy DeBova and, well, the Silver Championship leader, as he makes his way under the Real Cheese People billboard there and down towards turn number 5. The Belgian driver looking absolutely unstoppable this season. It seems as though whatever his rivals can throw at him, they're just not quite able to put a dent in his armour. And indeed, right now, he is continuing to put those results together. And he's not always just looking for the wins. Sometimes he's just looking to get the podiums or the top 5s to give him the points in order to stay safe at the front of the standings. But the key point being that for Jeremy DeBova is that he's been infallible so far. And he does have a drop scoring effect, given the fact that he did miss the race at Watkins Glen. So therefore, his point standing, his tally right now is definitely monumental when you consider how far we are into the season. But with that, ladies and gents, the checker flag is out on this practice session. It's time to make our way into qualifying. But who will come out on top come the end of qualifying? Well, very shortly, we're going to find out. As our drivers make their way out onto circuit now for 8 minutes to qualifying, lone qualifying session, which does mean they all have an isolated instance of the circuit available to them. They don't share the track with any other driver, and well, with a lap time here that's just over 2 minutes in length, it means there's very limited numbers of qualifying laps available. And just to remind you, that 8-minute timer is a hard stop, so when the clock strikes 8 minutes, that is qualifying completed. If a driver is on a lap, that lap is invalidated, and therefore they're not allowed to finish it. So therefore, effectively, our drivers only have 2 laps after the out lap in order to get this right, and therefore we could see a qualifying session which sees the pack turned on its head with regards to who's positioned where. But as we do see Edison making his way on down towards turn at number 5, we do say hello to a good number of you in the YouTube chat, including Medbo there, who says let's go, and it says time for Simon Bagel Bamber to reappear. We do look forward to seeing Simon Bamber on circuit, albeit I didn't realise that's what the B stands for. I believe there's a little bit of a running joke in the UK SimRacing community at the moment as to what the B in Simon Bamber stands for. Simon B Bamber, that is. And speaking of the driver, we show him on screen here, the gold UK SimRacing admin team driver, as he makes his way through a left-hander at turn at number 5. We also say hello to Craig Tillerson, who says good luck to the FR20 SimRacing boys tonight. Also to Charles Poshell, who says let's go Olympus. We also say hello to Alex there, and I think that may be none other than Alex Hiscox there, dropping a quick message in to say go team go. We also say hello to Exam there, who says go Bandit Joe, and well, welcome to you all. And if you haven't said hello yet, don't be shy, feel free to say hi. We don't bite here at UK SimRacing, but the only thing that does get bitten is those braking points and also the clutch. But as we do see Alex Hiscox making his way on around there out of the carousel and now up towards the kink, charging all the way in. Coming through the right hand of the team at Wales driver here, looking to try and master it right on the out lap. Next time around he's going to be doing it in anger, and he'll need to give it everything he can do in order to be able to find the best possible lap around here. And indeed, time very limited in this qualifying session with only 2 fast laps available. As he makes his way on around there, we do say hello to Nikki Basson there, who says let's go FR20 at Vamos. And well, speaking of the FR20 Sim Racing guys, well, here is Wayne Basson out on circuit right now as he makes his way out of the final corner and onto the start finish straight. I mean, it's only appropriate we ride on board here with our silver class driver as he takes us around for a flying lap of Road America. So keeping the car over to the left hand side as he makes his way into turn number 1, heading in 161 miles an hour as he goes onto the brakes. They're braking about 120 metres on corner apex, trail braking down a 4th gear, now making his way up towards turn number 3. Through the kink of 2, you can see how downhill the run is here as he makes his way onto the brakes, braking at about 130 metres on corner apex. 3rd gear as he gets the power down nice and early, fighting some oversteer there on power application as he heads up towards turn number 5, now making his way back up to top gear. Won't quite be as high top speed in the run to turn 5 compared to turn number 1, but still will come close. He heads upwards to 150, 750, 160 there as he goes onto the brakes, going all the way down from 6th gear into 2nd gear. And an early apex there for Basson. I think he may have went a slightly later apex, but just cognizant of the fact the tyres are not fully up to temperature nor are the brakes. As he makes way into turn at number 6, 3rd gear there. Difficult corner, you are braking over a rise, and into turn number 7, up to 4th gear, lift off the throttle as he comes to the right-hander, and down towards turn at number 8 he goes. Bring the car to the right side of the circuit, brake 150 metres to the corner apex. It's a long braking zone here, 2nd gear, as he clears the corner, and now up into the carousel. Now swinging the car through the double right apex here, it's all about trying to take a U-shaped line as he lets the car roll out and then brings it back in for a late turn 10 apex, and they can go full throttle out of the carousel and up towards the kink. And let's listen in for a lift. A Nice light lift there as he comes on through, but using all the track width as he dares to do so. And Basson there absolutely planted on corner exit now as he heads to the highest possible speed he'll reach. It's over 162 miles an hour as he goes onto the brakes into Canada corner. Through turn number 12, keeps it just within the track limits. They're using the run-off area to his advantage, which all drives off me to do. And as he heads into 13, with a blind apex there as he comes on through a left-hander, and now settles it down for the right-hander at turn number 14, braking nice and early there, about 140 metres to quarter apex, as he clears the right-hander back of the throttle here. And boy, it's a smooth lap from Basson, and when it's a smooth lap, it means it's a good one normally. And as he heads to the timeline, what's it going to be for his first flying lap of the board as we now start to see the laps coming in? From the silver driver, I think he is going to put down the marker in the silver class. It's a 2:10.144, but immediately Alistair Hatcher goes faster by what is there, a tenth and a half almost into P7, and we've got the gold tyres coming on in. And speaking of which, we look to the gold championship leader of Thomas Cope. He's currently the fastest gold time on the board there, albeit we have only got 9 gold tyres. In fact, time it's 10 now of the gold drivers as they make the way on down. And Will Cope on a 2:07.068. He's faster than Emil Koopmans by half a tenth thus far as he makes his way in towards turn number 5. As he comes down to the braking zone here, well, could we see some surprises? Well, perhaps the biggest surprise at the moment is the fact we yet to see a lap from Philipp Hammer, who's gone on to a lap quite late in the day. So I think Hammer has decided to just simply take it nice and easy on his first flying lap and instead now go all in. Well, his second and final flying lap here for today, and well, with so can the Team Germany driver find a way in order to usurp Cope from that pole position. And given the fact that Cope will be now going on to an even fast lap, he's already gone purple in sectors 2 and 3, so Cope absolutely flying out of the circuit right now. And well, as we do wait to see what materialises out of Hammer with the time he's remaining, well, we also do look to what is Adam Greaveson, who's yet to get a lap on the board as he crosses the timing line. Well, will that be a lap on the board now? It will not be. So Greaveson's got to go for one last ditch attempt here. He'll just about squeeze this lap in, given the fact that he did cross the timing line there approximately with 2 minutes and 15 seconds to go. He may not be able to squeeze it in, and if so, that means he's going to be starting from towards the very back of the field, and that's not a good place to start for anybody, including the FR20SimRacing driver, because overtaking is highly possible here. But also you've got to keep in mind that with the number of straights and the amount of slipstream that will be in effect, it does mean if you end up in a battle with some other drivers, you very quickly lose the guys in front, and then you've got to work double time in order to try and close them up, and that puts a lot of wear through the car. As he comes through turn number 5 right now, keeps nice and close to the apex there. Nice smooth run through the left-hander, and will go even faster at the top of the standings, a 2:06.005. Well, that will be his qualifying session done and dusted. Parker, that's James Parker, goes P2 on what is a 2:07.02. So this is the highest we've seen from James Parker so far in terms of provisional qualifying position. Will it stand the test of time? That's the question that we're waiting to find out the answer to. But meanwhile, we're also waiting to see what happens for Philipp Hammer as he makes his way up towards the timeline. He's left it to the final lap he's going to be permitted to do. But what's it going to be for Philipp Hammer as he crosses the timing line? Will it be good enough for pole? And it is good enough for pole, and by 2.5 tenths, Philipp Hammer absolutely smashes the ceiling there, and that's a 2:06.442. That is a phenomenal lap. Want to be very invested it all in a single lap, and those are the margins that make champions at the end of the day. And Hammer right now delivering under pressure, but meanwhile, we are hearing Joseph Bliss and Richard White have not been able to get a qualifying lap in, so they'll be starting from the back. But will Adam Greaveson have himself on the back rows of the grid as well, or will he find a way on in as Sean Cranley Swash takes provisional pole in the silver class? And I think that may be it for qualifying, ladies and gents. He's taking the 2:07.867 as Greaveson just misses the line. He will start P33 on the grid, and that's qualifying complete. It's time to head to the grid for our first race of the day. And as all of our drivers now make their way onto the grid, this is how they line up for the Round 9 sprint of Road America. It's Team Germany's Philipp Hammer who takes pole position by 2.5 tenths over Olympus Esports Vanguard's Thomas Cope. Behind them on row 2, James Parker and Emil Koopmans line up together for iRacing, DCW Racing and Apex Missers. FTR Esports' Igor Koz lines up on the 3rd row of the grid, joined by Patrick Thompson for Olympus Esports Vanguard. And then we have behind them on row number 4, Danny Lee, the privateer, joined by fellow privateer Dean Powell, who has his best qualifying performance of the season, P8. Sean Cranny-Swash takes pole position in the silver class P9 overall for 24-hour Punty People with a phenomenal lap at the right at the end of the qualifying session, and he's ahead of Nathan Foss there for Empire Motorsport, who completes your top 10. We then have on row at number 6, UKSimRacing UK's Chris Rance, joined by Simon B. Bamber for UKSimRacing admin team, and then on row at number 7 it will be Daniel Sedgey for Olympus Esports Titan, and ATX Tech's Lee Holmes. On row at number 8, Marcel Fritsch Team Germany and Jack Atkinson for UKSimRacing admin team will contest the spaces, with then row number 9 going to Chris Edisford and Corey Lazarus for UKSimRacing admin team and Blackout Motorsport respectively. Then behind them, completing the top 20 on row number 10, it's Jeremy DeBoer for the DVR Bowman Challenge and Steve Hobbs for FR20 Sim Racing. On row number 11, we will then see in P21 Glenn Humberstone for ATX Tech Racing, joined by Empire Motorsports Joe Newman, with row number 12 going to Team Wales' Alex Hiscox and Lucas Romano for team at DVR. And on row number 13, it's Cameron Swift, the privateer, joined by Som Sports Khalid Ramadan, with row 14 going to the pair of Sean Dobie for Clicks Racing and DVR Bowman Challenges DDD for Laming. And then on the 15th row to complete the top 30, it's Jeremy Story for Top Gear Sim Racing and Alistair Hatcher for ATX Tech, with row 16 going to FR20 Sim Racing's Wayne Bassam and Craig Shield for ATX Tech. Adam Greaveson for FR20 Sim Racing and Olympus Esports Titans Paul Joseph Cliffs complete your 17th row. And then finally in P35 on the final row of the grid, row number 18, it's Richard White who starts P35. But the grid is set, ladies and gents, but it's time for us to go racing. And will Philipp Hammer starts on pole for the first time this season in the company of Thomas Go. It's 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for our first race of the day. But will it be Hammer or Cope who leads come the exit of turn number 1? Well, it looks like both drivers getting an equal stop. And immediately Cope tucking into the toe there. Hammer in fact getting the better run up through the gearbox as they head into the right-hander. Well, who's going to come out on top here behind us? We see Emil Koopmans looking around the outside there versus Igor Koz, and Koz right now giving them the elbow as they make the way on down. A couple instants further back for drivers who've gone round. We had a nasty instant through turn 1 towards the back of the field. Lock up there for Koz. He goes wide. Emil Koopmans sandwiches his way on through, but now he's got the pressure of Patrick Thompson as Thompson gets the move on Koopmans in return. And behind them we've got Danny Lee, who are all over the back in a new livery for today, making his way down towards turn number 5 and thinking about an opportunity as well as they head in towards the braking zone for the downhill left-hander. But as they do, Hammer versus Cope. Cope's on the inside, and Cope once again trying to make a move early here, much like a Jerez last time out. But it's a shorter race here, and Hammer will not let this go unpunished as they make their way through turn number 6. Albeit I think Cope's going to force Hammer to stay behind as they come out to left-hand. A slow running behind for Nathan Foster coming out of turn number 6. I think a mistake there for the Empire Motorsport driver. He loses the rear of the car. He catches it in time, but he goes back onto the grass here. Albeit that could have been a disaster for Foster. He'll lose a lot of places, but not as many as he could have as he rejoins the racing down now in P15 into turn 8. As they make the way down, Alistair Hatcher looking up the inside there of Jeremy Story trying to make the move for P22, P8 in the silver class, and the silver class has seen some shuffling early on, so it definitely looks as though we've got quite a few battles kicking off between drivers here as they make the way into the second half of this opening lap, albeit right now things starting to calm down as everybody sets themselves up for the very terrifying run into the kink for the first time of asking cold tyres, plus also the dirtier of the car in front. It means that a lot of drivers could be vulnerable to running wide here, but everyone seems to survive the kink for the first time round. And as they make the way on through, meanwhile Nathan Foster trying to make his way on round the outside of Khalid Ramadan, but goes a bit deeper Canada Corder, and he'll have to rejoin there in P15. He's not going to be able to make the move stick as Marcel Fritsch now trying to look for the move in return. As they head through 13 and up towards 14, nose to tail at the moment they go, and we've got Marcel Fritsch having a very poor run through 13, going a long way back, but as they make the way through the right hand to complete the lap, we do see all the drivers here charging on through, and it does look so bad. And oh my good lord, and what on earth has happened there on the start finish straight, and it continues to domino effect here as more and more cars coming into the scene of an incident. And once they make the way on through, a little bit obscured there by the tree line is the blimp camera, but I think we've had multiple drivers get entangled in a huge shunt and the exit of turn 14. And whilst that's happened, meanwhile, as they all make the way down, now we've got 4 wide heading into turn number 1. That's 3 wide behind, as we can see there, Joe Newman literally getting muscled about by all of the silver drivers of Steve Hobbs, Alistair Hatcher and Jeremy Story, with Wayne Basson also trying to look for the move, and Basson up the inside here as they make the way into turn number 3, but he can't find the move, and Lee Holmes now, the gold driver, looking for a way past the silver driver of Basson. But as they make the way down towards turn number 5, we look to the front of the field, and they're at turn 6 already. It's Cope ahead of Hammer, followed by Parker in P3, and then we have Thompson P4, followed by Emil Koopmans P5, Lee in P6 and a Bamber P7. Dean Powell P8, followed up by your silver class leader of what is there, Chris Eddersford, and what a very lonely silver class leader at the moment. I wonder what happened in order to trigger off that instant, because Sean Cranny-Swash, who was leading in the silver class, has lost out massively as a result of it. And then Cameron Smith, who is a further 6 seconds behind, completes your overall top 10. He's P2 silver, with then Lucas Romano and Igor Koz battling side by side behind for P11. And as they make the way through the left hand, it's Igor Koz who regains the place that he's lost earlier on as he gets the move done there for FTR Esports. As we look to the left-hand side of your screen, and we do show you all the relative gains of our drivers in terms of positions overall. And our biggest gainer thus far is Alistair Hatcher, who's gained 16 places since the start of this race, going from P30 on the grid all the way up to P14. And, well, he's trying to look for a move here versus Lucas Mono, who ran wide, and Hobson will be coming on through, but can Hatcher find his way on through? I don't think he can find his way around at the moment. Instead, just going to sit in behind and wait for another opportunity. But Story here is going to try and pounce around the outside into the right-hander, and as they do, Story then a bit of contact turns in, finds Hatcher, but Romano goes deep, and as a result lets the silver stride through. In the fact we've got Hobbs, Hatcher and Story making the way through the corners now, all ahead of Romano. Joe Newman and Lee Holmes also getting ahead, and as they make the way into turn 14, it's fast, it's frantic, it's furious here at Road America, and Lee Holmes right now with damaged front end on that car, definitely eager to try and make some progress, but he can't find it. But as they make the way down the start finish straight, we can take a look back at the two major incidents, including what happened at the very start of the race, and here's the replay. We look at Corey Lazarus here, and that is Jeremy DeBova coming in extremely hot. And with that, in fact, that's not Jeremy DeBova. With that, it is Jeremy DeBova. We can correct ourselves there. And also Joe Newman being sent wide. It looks so DeBova under braking may have just locked up and gone a bit overly deep, but they all just about survived that in the end. And then after that instant, we take a look at what happened. And then towards the end of lap number 1. And this was on the exit of the final corner, and that was Chris Rance being sent on around, and also there, by looks of the 24-hour punch in the car, Kenny Ramadan going slowing and into the tyre barrier there as drivers careened into the scene of the incident. So there's a bit more of that than meets the eye. We try to understand a bit earlier on and what exactly happened in that instant, and well, the incident already kicking off in front as they made the way on up, and we see it from Steve Hobbs' perspective, but we really need the perspective of none other than Sean Cranny-Swash as to what happened to him, and we are going to try and find that perspective, albeit we can't at the moment. In fact, we do have a replay now of what happened, and well, it's Cranny-Swash getting it wrong out of the final corner, contact with Chris Rance there, and then as our drivers tried to rejoin, that's when it all went very wrong. Swash reversing into the pit lane, but other drivers making the way on through, and that explains the story there. So it was a chain reaction effectively, and it looks like Sean Cranny-Swash may have been one of the progenitors of it, or the starters of it, albeit not to put the blame on him. And I think a lot of drivers there came into the scene of the incident absolutely on pace and not perhaps respecting the yellow flags that may have been waved their way. But as we now look back to your live pictures, half the race complete, still half to go, when in towards turn number 12. Meanwhile, we do look to Jeremy DeBova, who's trying to now fight his way back through this race effectively and trying to gain some more places. And well, looking up the inside here, it's Paul Joseph Kliss giving him the space there. And I think Kliss respects the fact that DeBova's on a bit of a different level when it comes to pace, as we had a lot of smoke up there in the run into turn 13. I'm hearing the way that Cameron Smith may have just had a bit of an incident at turn 13. We'll try and get up down that shortly. But Paul Joseph Kliss in contact there with Humberstone, who comes in like a rocket, and well, both of them just about survived the corner. And as they make the way onwards towards another lap, it's the four silver drivers here all together, and Humberstone trying to keep Jeremy Story at bay. A Story there in the orange machine with teeth, making his way up towards turn number 1. The dinosaur machine heading in towards the braking zone very shortly. And meanwhile, look at the very left of your picture, you can see that's DDD Blaming looking for a move versus Humberstone. He can't quite find it, but what he will do is find the move of Paul Joseph Kliss to move up into P10 in the silver class as they make the way down towards turn number 3. But as they head on to the brakes here, through the right hander they go. Everyone settles down in this battle for a brief moment. I wouldn't be surprised we now see a bit of a drag race here in the run down towards turn number 5, and Story at the head of this group as we ride on board and look back for the Top Gear Sim Racing driver, P8 in the silver class with P22 overall, and the American right now trying to keep a hungry pack of silver wolves at bay. It's going onto the brakes very late there around the outside. It goes Glenn Humberstone. He's got the brakes in the car, however, and meanwhile as they make the way out the corner, no way through. Humberstone threw everything at it, and DDD Blaming takes a sneak peek there on the inside in turn 6. Well, that I think was a little bit adventurous, but then again, you've got to dare to dream, and DDD Blaming definitely there dreaming of an opportunity, but it didn't quite work out, and the reality sets in, he stays P10. But as they make the way in towards turn at number 8. Meanwhile, we look from them back to your race leaders here of Cope versus Hammer. The battle for the lead of the gold class and overall. And well, left into right they go as they come out 30 to 38. Cope there running a bit wide, and that's the first mistake we have seen all season under pressure from Cope. And well, could this be a sign of the tables turning as they make their way on to another lap? 2 laps to go here in the sprint race at Road America, given relative time, so we will see 6 laps turn effectively as they head on to lap number 5. Right now, Hammer all over the back of Cope. Into turn 1 they go. Hammer being made to look around the outside, Cope on the inside, onto the brakes they both go. And as they do, clearing the apex here, where it's going to be side by side on quarter exit. Cope giving Hammer the space that he has earned himself, and as they come down in towards the right-hander at turn number 3, well, now Hammer's going to try and go all the way around the outside. This is daring here. He's still side by side of quarter exit. You can see Patrick Thompson trying to get involved as they make the way down the stretch up towards turn number 5, and as they go up through the gearboxes, it looks as though Cope may have a slight edge here initially. Remember, the road does tamper around to a left-hander here in the kink of 4, and onto the brakes they go, and Philipp Hammer retakes the lead under braking into turn 5. Is it short-lived, however? As we can see, he goes a bit wide, and Cope tries to come back up into 6. He's going to go in on the brakes here. A bit of contact between the two. Hammer sent forward there, but Cope, to be fair, makes sure not to capitalise. He lifts off the throttle, so it does look as though there, where in fact he did give Hammer a little bit of a tap on the rear end based on the camera angles we saw. But as they make their way down towards turn number 8, you can see James Parker there in P4 also itching for an opportunity to go and scrap with Thompson. But as they make their way out of turn number 8, brilliant battling here between our top 4 and our 2 big names at the very top of the Gold Championship coming together as they make their way through the carousel for the penultimate time in this race. Through the double right they go and onwards towards the king, and it's going to be an off-track there for Cope, and that could be the difference. That's going to buy Hammer 3 tenths, and that means a lot in the race. It's Cope goes even wider as he rejoins now. He's got the dirt on his tyres, and I think Cope here just wary of the fact there's no longer any grip in the car. He won't have that until the end of the lap with the dirt having to be worn off the tyres, and it is Parker who goes up the inside into Camden corner. Now Cope will not want to lose out here for the simple reason he'll need every point he can get in order to make sure that Hammer does not start to reel him on in. And whilst they make their way through 13, Hammer finally finding a way to get into the mind of Cope, it would seem, and Cope making a very rare error as they now make their way on towards the final lap, charging up towards turn number 1 they go, and as they do, meanwhile Emil Koopman's now boiling for a scrap here as he looks to go hunting for P4 versus what is there, James Parker, and we're all over the back of Parker as they head into the braking zone. Onto the brakes they go. It's going to be Koopman's on the inside, Parker on the outside through the right-hander, and well, Koopman's here I think will have the authority to the corner, and the Dutchman gets it done. Parker not able to hold the position, and Danny Lee now looking up the inside in return. They're using the space that Koopmans has provided him with as a means to an end as they come out of the next right-hander at turn number 3, and it is Danny Lee who takes P5 off of Parker, and Parker just having a slight blip right towards the end. To be fair though, being on that outside into turn 1, Koopmans nailing it right, and Parker not able to carry as much speed around the outside as he would have liked to, and that's what's cheated off this train reaction, as now we do see in towards turn number 5. It's going to be Parker looking around the outside of Lee. Lee gives them the space, so will be a little bit of door rub in between, but they won't mind that. And into at turn number 6 they go. Parker sweeps back to the inside, but Lee has an advantage there, and as he's able to brake a little bit deeper, and there's no way through for Parker as they come down through turn number 7. But as they make the way on through, meanwhile we look back to Jeremy Story here, who's chasing down Jeremy DeBova. And well, the two Jeremys on circuit side by side together, and as they head in towards turn number 5, it does look as though Jeremy DeBova has lost some of the pace from earlier on in this race, and the Story right now itching to try and take the scalp of the championship leader in the silver class, and he does so there with a classic up the inside pass into turn number 5. And well, as we look back to the overall standings on the left hand side of your screen, ladies and gentlemen, we are on to the final half of this final lap, as we do look towards our drivers in the midfield. But meanwhile, I can see the race leaders right now making their way up through turn number 12. And only 2 more major corners to go for Philipp Hammer, as he has a little bit of wobble there coming out of Canada corner. And will Patrick Thompson mind trying to keep him as honest as possible, but with an advantage of 6.5 tenths here. Hammer doesn't need to do anything spectacular to to take the win this race. All he needs to do is get the final corner right, and as he makes his way out of the final corner, it's a long charge to the line, but I don't think Thompson's going to be close enough here to put the pressure on in the drag race, and Philipp Hammer takes the win in the round 9 sprint at Road America to Patrick Thompson P2. Thomas Copenhagen returns to the podium P3, and it's Emil Kuhn's P4 ahead of Danny Lee, with James Parker P6 ahead of Dean Powell, Simon Bamber P8, Igor Koz will come across the line very shortly, P9, and then in a surprise but a welcome one to be sure, Chris Eddersford makes it the win in the Silver class, P10 overall, 7 seconds clear of Steve Hobbs, who comes on through to take the runner-up spot in the Silver class, and then it will be Cameron Smith who takes his best result of the season overall and in silver, P12 overall, P3 in the Silver class, head of Alistair Hatcher, with then Jack Atkinson behind P14, Wayne Basson P15 ahead of Sean Dobie, Marcel Fritsch, Jeremy DeBover, Jeremy Story and DDD Belayman complete your top 20, and it'll be Lucas Romano ahead of Paul Joseph Clears, Glenn Humberstone, Adam Greaveson, Corey Lazarus, Craig Schill to P26, Richard White will come across the line shortly, P27, in a difficult first race of the day for White, having started from the very back of the field, but still gained some key places into P14 in the Silver class, and it will shortly be Daniel Sedgley who comes across the line, P28 for Olympus Esports Titan, and he will be 9 seconds clear, or in fact it will be 14 seconds clear, we should say, of what is Chris Rance, as we see Rance make his way out of the final corner, and with that instant between himself and Sean Cranny Swash out of turn 14 on lap number 2, definitely costed him very dear with the end of lap number 1 really, and the UKSimRacing UK driver knowing that he's got a lot of work to do in our second race of the day, and I believe with that we do have a couple of drivers still going towards the end of the race, a little bit of battle here between Sonsport's Kelly Ramadan and 24 Hour Punch Cranny Swash, but as they make their way on towards the line, I think Ramadan will just about do it and holds off the P30 versus Swash, who will finish P31 in the end. But that was our first race of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and we do now have a quick 5-minute breather in which to take you through those race results once again, and well, those results will be appearing on screen very shortly, but my goodness, what a first race of the day, and let's take you through all the results as confirmed, subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. As we can see, after 12 minutes of racing in our first race, the sprint round number 9 of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup Season 7, brought to you here on iRacing. Philipp Hammer making it the win for Team Germany by half a second in the end over Olympus Esports Vanguard's Patrick Thompson. Thomas Cope, whilst he did fall from favour at the very front of the field, still finished P3 for Olympus Esports Vanguard, and therefore the damage will not be too significant, but could it be a sign that Hammer has found a way to get under the skin of the number 64 driver, or was it just a blip, and could we see Cope return the favour in our second race of the day? Well, it's going to be intriguing, and we're going to see that very shortly. Apex misses Emil Kuhlman's finished P4, a further 3 tenths behind, just missing out on the podium, but still a great drive there to be off of the podium in P4, ahead of Danny Lee, who finished P5 in another strong shine, and Lee again continuing to rise in pace, and it is definitely showing the fact the 188 driver is now charged up to top 5s and picks up his first top 5 of the season, if my memory serves me correctly. James Parker, P6 for iRacing Summaries DCW Racing. A slight fall from grace right towards the end of the race after running for so long in P4, but still he'll be pleased to be battling for the podium places. I know it was a P6 there as a minimum. And then the privateer of Dean Powell, P7 in a great result there, albeit of a bit of a silent but perfect performance result ahead of Simon B. Bamber and Igor Koz to complete the top 9, and with it the gold top 9 as well. P10, it was Chris Eddersford, your silver class winner, picking up his first winning class of the season, and the UKSimRacing admin team driver doing well to echo the podiums of the last couple of rounds and continuing to find that run of form and that strength. Behind him by a further 7 seconds, it was Steve Hobbs at FR20 Sim Racing, and Cameron Smith, who then finished a 10th behind Hobbs. The privateer round off the silver podium of Eddersford, Hobbs and Smith. And Alistair Hatcher, Jack Atkinson and Wayne Basson completed your top 15, with Basson doing well to finish P5 in the silver class for FR20 Sim Racing ahead of Sean Dobie, the Clicks Racing driver not too far behind. And then to round off the top 20, it was their Muscle Fritsch P17, the gold driver having a relatively decent race, albeit I think looking for some more places, and he finished ahead of Jeremy DeBover, Jeremy Story and DDD Belayman, with Jeremy DeBover there holding off Jeremy Story to the line, and Belayman just finished a bit further behind. And then see Lucas Romano P21 for DBR, a difficult first race of the day for Romano, with the off-tracks early on costing him dear. Paul Joseph Cliff P22, the Olympus Esports Titan driver, enjoying mixing it up with some of the stronger drivers in the silver class field. And ahead of A-Tech races going to Humberstone, where Adam Greaves and Corey Lazarus completing your top 25. And Craig Short P26, the A-Tech driver, ahead of Richard Wyatt, with the top 30 being rounded out by Daniel Seji, Chris Rance and Khalid Ramadan. And then Sean Cranny Swash, the last finisher on the lead lap, finishing 2 laps down. Meanwhile, Lee Holmes and Joel Newman. And then we can see Nathan Foster and Alex Hiscox, P34, P35. And as they completed under half the race distance, which will be stated as 3 laps or more, it does mean that Nathan Foster and Alex Hiscox will be classified as non-finishers for our first race of the day. Well, we are only approximately 1.5 minutes away from our second race of the day, ladies and gentlemen. And well, I can tell you that right now the practice is immediately going in for this man, Thomas Cope, as he makes his way through what is turn at number 6. I think he's wanted to settle himself down and make sure that he doesn't want to have another small moment like what we just saw in the sprint race, and well, that will be on his mind. And it's those little moments that can definitely unsettle you as a driver, but Cope's also got to have faith in the fact he does have a sizable championship lead, and therefore he can afford to keep finishing on the podium for Hammer to take wins, and he will still be on course to take the championship crown so long as he keeps it consistent. And that is what an early championship lead brings you. It brings you comfort, and knowing you can potentially lose out a couple of points and not fall by the wayside. As we say hello to a good number of you in YouTube chat there who have joined since the start. We say hello to L Andrews 59, Luke Andrews there, and commenting on the incident we saw on the exit of the final corner on lap number 1, and also a good number of you there talking about what happened. We also say hello there to Austin William Campbell, and well, good to see you here, Austin. And indeed, Austin William Campbell, a favourite when it comes to racing at leagues, was hosted by UKSimRacing, a very fast driver in his own right, and also a driver who sometimes goes with unconventional cars. As some of you may remember, the Royal Air Force Ford GT in the GT3 League, and how he's able to make that work and battle for the top 5s round after round. But as our drivers here come to the end of this practice warm-up session for the feature race, well, 30 minutes of racing to come. Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Who will come out on top after the 30 minutes? And will we potentially see Cope and Hammer exchange blows once again? It's time to find out. As our drivers make their way onto the grid for the second time today, this is how they line up for the round 10 feature race in the Porsche Cup Season 7. Simon Bamber takes reverse grid pole position for UKSimRacing admin team through the top 8 inversion, joined on the front row by Dean Powell. It is then James Parker and Danny Lee who line up on the second row of the grid, followed up by Emil Koopmans and Thomas Cope on row number 3, and then completing the top 8 inversion at Patrick Thompson and Philipp Hammer who complete your top 8. Behind them to complete the top 10 on row number 5, it's what is there Igor Koz and Chris Eddersford, who Eddersford trying to make it 2 wins out of 2 here today in the silver class, and there'll be Steve Hobbs and Cameron Smith who start on the 6th row. Row number 7 will go to Alistair Hatcher and Jack Atkinson, with Wayne Basson and Sean Dobie behind. And on row at number 9, it'll be Marcel Fritsch and Jeremy DeBova, with the top 20 being completed by Jeremy Story and Didi D. Valamink. And on row at number 11, well, we'll have to stop there, ladies and gentlemen. The grid is set. It's time to go racing once again. It's going to be a grand total of 5 red lights. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5. And it's lights out, and away we go for the second race of the day here at Road America, as there's Will Spinner plenty of the line, but not for Simon Bamber, who nails the start as they make their way down towards turn number 1. As he charges his way on down, you can see James Parker immediately trying to come over to the inside to cover off Dean Powell, as he has got the move there. It looks as though Parker moving up to P2 nice and early, and as they make their way through turn number 1 and down towards turn 3 they go. Any other gainers early on, well, we can see there a little bit of squabble between Wes Hammer and Koz, but meanwhile Danny Lee looking around the outside of Wes Emil Koopmans, but can't quite find it at the moment as the drivers make their way down towards turn number 5 now, and Thomas Cope immediately on the offensive here as they head in towards the next braking zone, and Cope already now looking for the move on Lee. He's going to go around the outside to do it as Lee defends the inside. Onto the brakes they go into turn number 5, and Cope gets ahead. Bold move. Meanwhile, Igor Koz says I can be even bolder and looks around the outside with a good number of them, but in the end only enters the corner and goes wide as a result, as he has Philipp Hammer up the inside now, and Hammer takes the place off of him as they make the way through turn number 6. A strong start from Igor Koz off the line, but now he finds his way down to P9, and will Philipp Hammer gains 1 place back after losing a place early on as they come down towards turn number 7. As all drives now begins Concertina in the second half of the lap. This is where we start to see things calm down quite considerably. And well, here's Chris Grant chasing after what is Diddy Blaming for P27 overall, and what is effectively their P12 in the silver class. And Grant's making some early gains as we see a run wide there for none other than Corey Lazarus, and contact with Diddy Blaming's car. We do believe between the two of them, as Lazarus has to be towed to the pit lane, and that'll be for damage to the car. And I think that car may be out of the race. They may not be able to get it repaired, but as they make their way through the carousel, meanwhile just behind we can see Caleb Ramadan trying to find his way up through the field, but Ryan A can't do so with a great shield in front. But meanwhile, at the very front of the field, Simon Bamber has lost out to James Parker. We missed that at Canada Corner. We will take a look back at that very shortly to see how the move was made, but it's James Parker who leads after one lap turn. There's going to be approximately 14 to 15 of them here in this feature race, as Parker makes his way out towards the timeline. Well, after one lap, here's the top 10. It is Parker ahead of Bamber, followed by Dean Powell. Then we have Koopmans in P4, ahead of Thomas Cope P5. Lee P6 ahead of Thompson P7, followed by Hammer, Cos. And then we do have with P10 there, your silver class leader Chris Edisford, with Cameron Smith and Alistair Hatcher behind. But meanwhile, looking back up to the gold leaders, well, there's a car off in the rear of the pitch, and I believe that may be none other than Philipp Hammer, who's gone a bit wide. We'll have to get an update on that very shortly as to who exactly lost it over the corner. But as we do, well, in fact, we're not quite sure who it was. We saw a lot of gravel be kicked up. It wasn't. Well, in fact, it was Hammer who has rejoined a lot further back. In fact, down to P9 now and 2 seconds off of the lead top 8. But as they all begin to now start to put themselves together here in the run down towards turn number 5. Will Thompson on the inside here, defending just as much as attacking versus with Dean Powell. And well, as they come through left-hand, it's going to be Igor Koz who takes the place off of Powell, gains another one, and the FTR Esports driver having a much more successful run of being bold on the brakes since turn 5 that time. And with it now picking up a place, he makes his way on through turn number 7. But looking back from them to Wayne and Basson here, trying to look around the outside of Glenn Humberstone into turn number 6, through the left into right they go. And Basson falling behind now, knowing that really around the outside to inside from 6 to 7, it's a very challenging approach at the best of the times. And you've got to have a lot of faith that the driver you're battling with completely makes a mockery of the apex of turn number 6 until they just don't get the power down. They're a bit too conservative. But Basson right now just watching on here as Humberstone tries to pull away. But again, tyre preservation is going to be pivotal, and therefore let's not read too much into the gaps that are appearing right now. They could close up much later on. But meanwhile, in terms of our biggest gainers at the start of this race, we can see that the biggest gainer of them all is Daniel Sedgley, who's moved up to P17 from what was P28 on the grid. And here is the Olympus Esports Titan driver, who is finding his way through rather rapidly and coming into the right-hander at turn number 12. He's got more places to go before he starts the battle with the key gold places here. His first target will be Marcel Fritsch, who's 2 places ahead in P15. But the point being that for the British driver, he is finding those places little by little here. And well, he could be with a chance of having a shot at top 10 finish in the gold class when this is all said and done, if he keeps the momentum up and plays it smart lap after lap. As he comes across the line, meanwhile, one of the biggest losers in terms of the grid is Jeremy Story, who has way down to P33. I think he's had an instant in the final corner. In fact, with multiple guys in the instant final corners, we see Sedgley up the inside here of Hobbs. And makes the move comfortably there, does Sedgley, as he now heads down towards turn number 3. Into the braking zone they go, and as they do, Sedgley getting it hooked up very nicely. Meanwhile, a bit further back in the battle for P30, this is Jeremy DeVoe versus Paul Joseph Cliffs. But Cliffs being on the offensive, can he find a way to make his way on through, however? Well, I think it may be DeVoe who's just starting to break away here as they come down towards turn number 3, and into the right hand as they go, and Paul Joseph Cliffs will have to wait his turn. As they exit the corner, we now have an opportunity to take a look back at what happened on the opening lap, starting with the turn at 1 instant, and well, here I do believe is a replay. Start the race onto the brakes, they went deep laming a bit hot on the brakes there, contact with the FR20SimRacing car as well. Not quite sure who that was who was in contact with. We are trying to understand what we can tell. I think it was Adam Greaves, in fact, who got turned on around as a result of that. We take a look back at the instant once again, and this is on board with Jeremy Story as he comes into the scene. Contact with the rear there of Richard White's car, very hard whack, and everybody having to really fight for space on the circuit. Elbows out of piece from many a driver, and in Story not done that. He battled on the inside at first, blaming into turn 3, and well, going all in there, got the move done. So that was what happened at the opening corner, and we'll return it back to your live pictures for a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen. We will take a look back at the move that was made for the lead of this race by Parker on the open lap in terms of passing Simon Bamber, and this is what happened in the run down towards Canada corner on lap number 1. You can see there Bamber defending on the racing line. I think Parker, feeling as though he had the brakes available, Bamber was not expecting Parker to go all in there, but Parker made it count, and a nice move there from James Parker to take the lead of this race on the opening lap. Still holds on currently as we look back to Joseph Clearsey getting it wrong there out to Canada corner and the car in to the barrier. But meanwhile, as we look back to live pictures, we look to Alistair Hatcher for a moment. He's got Marcel Fritsch all over the back of him as they head into turn 1. But Fritsch backs off there into the braking zone. In turn, he's got Daniel Sedgey, who's now trying to look for a way in as they make their way down towards turn number 3. As they head down into the braking zone here, and we look to the class standings on the left-hand side of your screen. You can definitely see now how the classes are starting to spread out as they head in towards turn number 5. Right now, it's going to be Sedgey in the drag race versus Fritsch. Fritsch on the inside, the Team Germany driver. I think not quite having the top speed that Sedgey's got at his fingertips. And as they head on down, he'll be hoping that he can outbrake Sedgey and therefore force him onto that compromised outside line. Sedgey open up as much of the corner as he can in order to go for a cutback. It's a good cutback manoeuvre, and as they head up towards turn number 6, side by side on the brakes, and well, it will be Sedgey who takes the place there with a brilliant piece of overtaking, and Fritsch, to be fair, did everything he could in order to try and keep Sedgey at bay, but Sedgey just finding a way to outfox him at the end of the day as they come down towards turn number 7 now. Well, in fact, turn number 8, let's get the numbers right, but we still do have a couple of replays to go with regards to what happened towards the end of lap number 1, and we will get a replay of that shortly. But first, we have a replay of what happened to Nathan Foster on the opening lap, and here is what happened. Is in the run down towards turn number 5, onto the brakes he went, and as he did, a bit of contact there with the 88 Tech car that seemed to get it wrong. Was turned across the road. Kelly Bramadan and Alex Hiscott's both avoiding Nathan Foster, the wayward car Nathan Foster, and then for Corey Lazarus, well, it all went wrong at turn number 8, and this is what happened to Corey Lazarus. We see the tail end of it. In fact, it was up towards turn number 6 first where it went wrong, battling side by side with drivers then, battling with Jeremy Story, who comes in a bit too on the brake, sends Lazarus sideways, and that's what sent Sedgey round as well. And well, it was a domino effect then. Sedgey just parked up in the gravel and then having to try and make a recovery drive of the situation. As our drivers now make their way in to what is the end of the first third of this race. We look back to your live picture, and Sedgey's still trying to make further progress here as he comes on down into the braking zone for turn number 1, and they're taking the move on Alistair Hatcher's move up to what is P14 overall, and will still P11 gold class. He is passing silver class drivers to put you in perspective, but as he heads in towards the braking zone for turn number 3, you'll know that he's picking them off one by one. But as he does so, meanwhile, we look back up to Danny Lee versus Patrick Thompson. Well, the Olympus Esports driver of Thompson looking for the move here on Lee into turn number 5. Lee trying to defend here around the outside. Well, getting a little bit of tank slapper there. The rear of the car just letting go and not hooking up. And here comes Hammer looking up the inside. Can't quite find it into turn number 6. And Hammer playing the patience game here. And the fact he's not really made any progress since the start of this race, and as they exit turn number 7 and down towards 8, well, run wide there from Thompson, but Hammer most definitely really being conservative. I would imagine he's most likely trying to preserve the tyres in order to give himself all the pace in the final 10 minutes of the race. And again, we have seen this from Hammer quite a number of times, in the fact that he normally just takes it easy in the first 10 to 15 minutes, saves all the tyre life up, and then goes for broke in the final half to final 10 minutes of the feature race. But I wonder whether he's leaving this a bit too late, given the fact he's 4.5 seconds off of the race leader. As they make their way in towards turn at number 12, we look to the race leaders here, and well, we just saw Parker make his way past our cameraman, but Bamber in particular, P3 is the focus of our cameraman's attention as he heads in towards turn 13. He's got Emil Coons immediately behind him here, and that pressure still building, and Bamber started at the very front of the field in this race, dropped 2 places to Parker and Cope, and James Parker still trying to keep Cope away, albeit Thomas Cope is 7/10 off the back of him, if that, as they make their way onto lap number 6 here and head into the second third of this race. I would imagine that Cope will continue to bring that gap down little by little, and eventually will look for the move most likely towards the end of the 20-minute mark. But as they head in towards turn number 1, you can see there Koeman's so close. He could reach out, touch the rear wing of Bamber's car. We ride on board here for the Dutchman as the apex misses driver looks to hit his apex. And well, he does so indeed there. Takes a slightly later apex compared to Bamber despite the dirty out, upsetting the front end rotation of the car. And as they make their way up towards turn number 5, we look back to the oval standings here for a time, ladies and gentlemen. And well, Koeman's in the draft, but not quite able to get close enough here. He's a tenth away from potentially looking for the move, and as he goes away, he gets his nose in under braking, and will Bamber, I think, will feel as though now he's got to give the space, and indeed side by side on corner exit, Bamber takes a little bit of gravel for his woes, and as they make the way up towards turn number 6, well, Koeman's on the inside there and gets it done, and then well, Koeman's a nice and succinct move, moves up into P3, and Bamber now will try and come back at him. He's got to be aware of the fact he's got FTR Esports as Igor Koz, and Koz eager to try and make it another podium. The last time we saw Koz on the podium, I do believe it was at Watkins Glen, unless I'm mistaken, so it has been some time since the FTR Esports driver has been able to notch a major result. As they come through the carousel, where it's going to be nose to tail for so many here in the gold class, as the top 8 drivers all gold right now and all staying together. It is only 4.3 seconds that separate Parker from Hammer, and that goes to show you just how close the pace is here as they make their way up towards turn number 12. Meanwhile, we're looking further back to Chris Rance, as Rance looking for the move here versus Wayne Basson as they head out of the carousel themselves and up towards turn number 11 going into the king. And Rance, the faster of the 2 drivers, in fact one of the fastest drivers in the silver class, and as he comes on through the king, well, not quite close enough to look for a move yet, but meanwhile we have to suspend that fault, ladies and gentlemen, because Emil Koeman's had a moment at what was the run in towards turn at number 12 or 13, one of the 2. He's missed the front bumper, that we can definitely reassure you, and as he makes way into the pit lane, I suspect he's been called in due to the damage he's picked up. We've seen an orange and black flag, and therefore Emil Koeman's race now has taken a very dark turn. But meanwhile, we look back to the battle here between Cameron Smith and Kelly Gramadan, and then Wayne Basson versus Chris Rance. And as they all make their way on to the next lap, where it's a long train there of what is Smith ahead of Basson, followed by Rance, and Rance right now definitely feeling as though that pressure is on to try and make some moves. He looks up the inside of versus Basson into turn number 1. It's 4P8 in the silver class, P21 overall, and as they make their way into the corner, Holmes just behind here, but Basson goes a bit deep. Rance plays it conservatively, but now on the inside down into 3, and onto the brakes they both go here, and well, Rance will get the move done initially, but now will Basson be able to come back? Well, meanwhile, looking from them, we look to what is Danny Lee versus Philipp Hammer heading out to 5 and into 6, and now Hammer starting to try and knock on the doors some potential moves, as meanwhile Jack Atkinson has dropped to P8. Well, I'm not quite sure how that's happened, but Atkinson has, well, in fact I think Atkinson has made his way through the field. I've to correct myself there, ladies and gentlemen, in the fact that Atkinson has picked his way into P8. We apologise for that, but it is in particular Emil Koeman's who had that major shunt, and we are curious as to what exactly happened to Emil Koeman's, and we will try and find out very shortly what went wrong for him. And well, when we do so, we'll give you that replay as soon as possible. But we look back to Emil, well, it's not Emil Koeman's, but instead Chris Eddersford here, as Eddersford making his way on around through the carousel. And as he does so, we're right now under pressure from Powell, albeit he won't be feeling too much pressure in terms of class position, just overall position as they head in towards turn number 11. We've also had a change of lead at the front as Powell goes wide, going on through the King. The King claims another driver, and Dean Powell there catches it in time. But meanwhile, he's got a battle behind him that's coming right on in. He's going to put himself right in the middle of the road here. And Sean Dobie and Alistair Hatcher both on the battle under brake, and Alistair Hatcher locks up. And as he does so, well, that's going to cost him the opportunity to try and make the move with Sean Dobie to the final spot of the silver podium as they make the way towards the end of the first half of this race. Into the second half they go, and as they head in towards turn at number 14, nose to tail they continue their way. I think Alistair Hatcher there will be absolutely gutted to have missed out on a key opportunity, or given the fact that a driver came onto the circuit but was right in the middle of the road. To be fair, we're not blaming what is their Dean Powell for doing so. He rejoined the racing line before the drivers came up behind him, so he was relatively safe in that regard. I think for Hatcher right now, he felt as they had the momentum on, but meanwhile momentum is on for Sean Cranny Swash, looking around the outside there of Hobbs, looking around the outside of Wes Hatcher as well, into turn 1, but he can't quite find it, and now he's got to try and do it again into turn number 3 as Hobbs looks to come back, but not too far away there to make the move is Hodge, but Swash looking for cutback, coming out of turn number 3, and onwards they go. In the tow is Sean Cranny. Swash as they make the way down towards turn number 5. Well, now he's going to be made to look around the outside is the Canadian driver, as meanwhile Hatcher the Briton defends hard on the inside here. Coming down into the left-hander, Swash on the outside, he's got his nose ahead under brake and able to take a lot more speed into the corner, and Sean Cranny Swash around the outside. It's an unconventional move, but it's worked wonders, and now up to P4 in the silver class, only one place away from being on the podium, and I think he'll feel that's where he deserves to be, given that qualifying, that phenomenal qualifying that put him right up there at the start of today, and well, it all went wrong in the first race of today, and now he's trying to make amends. But meanwhile, whilst things do settle down between them, we have a replay of what happened to Emil Koopmans on lap number 6. This was coming out of turn number 12, rear of the car, letting go, power oversteer, and then contact on the back of Koopmans' car from Igor Koz there. And I think Koz blind to the fact that Koopmans was regaining the car, and then Koopmans being sent to the tyre barrier and losing his front bumper for what has happened. But as we then return to live pictures, we also do very shortly take a look back at the move that's made by Thomas Cope for the lead this race versus James Parker, and when we have that replay, and here it is. So on lap 7 they made the way out to the King, and Parker ran wide there in his haste to carry as much speed as possible, and Cope able to just go around the outside for 11A as they made the way down towards Canada Corner, and Cope there getting the job done in a timely fashion. A return to your live pictures now, ladies and gentlemen. We'll stay on those for some time. We do look to Simon Bamber versus Philipp Hammer, and Hammer up the inside there, now going for P5 in the gold class and overall, and Hammer deploying the pace now. He's been saving it up, albeit he's left it quite late in the day. It's 6.6 seconds to Cope, your race leader, and even to what is P2 in the form of Parker. Right now Hammer will need to try and bring down 5.2 seconds of time and make the move, and with only 12 minutes remaining plus the final lap, it means that he's got a bit of time remaining, but I don't think he wants to become complacent with the amount of time he's got. But then again, saying that he is a double gold champion for a reason, and as they head in towards turn at number 5 right now, Hammer starting to inch away from Bamber as they head uphill towards 6. As they go into left-hander, meanwhile we do look from there back to a bit further back to Cameron Smith versus Chris Rance, and these two battling for P7 in the silver class. As we can see there, Smith looking for the move versus Lucas Romano. As they head onto the brakes and then into the left-hander, Romano there goes a bit deep, and Smith can't seem to find a way on through it, and the gold driver Romano definitely being a bit of a forward in Smith's side at the moment. I think Smith eager to make haste, but meanwhile now with Rance close behind him, that wants to push forward and get away from where's Rance and put Romano between the two of them will become ever more pressing. As they headed down towards turn at number 8, we'd just like to tell you a bit of a pressing matter, ladies and gentlemen, that we are now going towards the end of the racing today, and the voting for driver of the day is now open. A link has been posted in the YouTube chat. It's a straightforward Google form, but do let us know who your driver of the day has been over the racing today at Road America, and do so using the Google form link provided. And votes close as of midnight tonight, British Summer Time, alternatively Universal Coordinated Time +1. And whether it be a driver right at the front of the field or all the way down towards the bottom of the field, don't be shy to let us know, as everyone deserves their day in the spotlight. But meanwhile, Cameron Smith making his way up through turn 12 now, and with Rance still there as they make the way up to turn 13, we ride on board and look back from the rear of Smith's car, and well, getting very close as Rance, he continues to poke the rod and try to finish out a move here, but the problem is he just cannot seem to find it. Cameron Rance was Smith able to just prove to be the one to have the edge in the smallest margin as they make their way up towards turn number 1. But as they do, we've had a change of leader in the silver class, or have we? Let's get an Humberstone, looks around the outside into turn 1 versus Chris Eddersford. Eddersford defends here. They've got Dean Powell behind the gold driver, watching on the popcorn seat view versus the silver leaders. They head down to turn number 3, but Glenn Humberstone here putting pressure onto Eddersford. I think Eddersford might be feeling that the tyres are starting to go away, given that last lap Eddersford was a whole second slower compared to Humberstone. I think Humberstone has done well if he's preserved the tyres to give himself all the pace he needs now to go hunting, but having to defend there as well versus Powell, who's eager to try and cut on through between the silver pair. More Eddersford will be hoping that Powell can get involved, but meanwhile Humberstone will be wishing the opposite. As they clear tier 5, turn 5 I should say, and up towards turn at number 6, well Humberstone here continue to enact pressure on Eddersford, but the thing is Eddersford has been in this position before and he knows how to hold on when he needs to as they make their way down through turn 7 and into 8 and into the next braking zone they go. How they're doing a little bit of a wave under before the braking zone into turn 8. I think trying to say to Humberstone, look, I'm coming through whether you like it or not, make it easy and I won't cost you time versus Eddersford. But as they come down through the carousel, Humberstone's only got one thing in his mind as we ride on board, and it is the rear end of Eddersford's car and making sure he gets past it as soon as possible. Whereas they head into the King right now, Humberstone there incredibly close, 2.5 tenths in. You can see the car gradually washing out with understeer as they made their way through the King with the dirty air, and as they come up towards turn at number 12, onto the brakes they go, and Humberstone not close enough this time to think about a move, and instead having to wait. We've got a car up in front there, is Paul Joseph Bliss, who's run wide. He's a lap down effective now, so therefore he will not be in speed in this battle with the silver driver. But as they head up towards turn number 14, we are hearing that there's been an incident for Steve Hobbs, and I think the incident may have been triggered off by contact with Chris France, from what I'm hearing in my ear. We will try and take a look back at that very shortly, but right now we stay with the battle for the silver lead as it takes its way onto lap number 11. 8 minutes to go. Humberstone close. He's getting closer. Looking up the inside. Bills on in. Eddersford not in position to defend it this time. This could be the move. And as Humberstone heads onto the brakes, Eddersford still down the outside, committing to pinning Humberstone to the inside apex. But the problem is now that he's got to do it twice. He's got to go around the outside again at turn number 3 and then hope he's going to be able to out-drag Humberstone into turn number 5. Well, to be fair, in fact, Humberstone not quite as assertive into turn 3 as in turn 1. Eddersford having a lot more confidence there, and it shows as he regains the lead of Silvercast. But could this be Humberstone deploying a bit of a ploy here in the fact he knows there's a long straight to go and therefore he wants to be in the tow? But Eddersford sees it's coming and blocks hard down onto the inside, and as they make their way in towards turn number 5 where they both go wide, they're both pushing each other so hard. Powell makes it 3 wide on the exit of the corner, and as they make their way up the hill, it's Powell on the inside of Humberstone, goes all in, and Powell does put himself between the two silver drivers. I wouldn't be surprised if Humberstone right now may be uttering a few choice words underneath his virtual helmet, for the simple reason this is not the way I've wanted it to play out, and in the end, in his eagerness to follow Eddersford to the ends of the earth and more, he ends up making a mistake that's cost him quite dear, as now Powell tries to look for a way past Eddersford. But as they come on through the right hand, returns 9 and 10. Well, the problem here is in the fact that Humberstone's trying to come back. Powell goes a bit deep, and this could be the battle that essentially releases Eddersford to stay clear for the rest of the race. They may end up fighting each other, and Eddersford may just simply pull away. But as they head through the King this time, meanwhile, we look from this battle to be the final driver inside the top 10 overall to up into P2, and this is James Parker, second place overall in gold, and he's got Igor Koz immediately behind him. And as they make the way on the start finish straight, with the FTR Esports driver doesn't need an invitation to look for an overtake, as Parker puts the car closer and closer to the tyre barrier. In fact, the pit wall there, we should really say. And as they head in towards the braking zone, solid concrete that wall, and heading in towards turn number 1, was going to be Koz looking around the outside, and well, Koz there carrying the momentum all around, but Parker defending hard on the inside. The DCW Racing iRacing driver does not want to let this go. He knows he's on course for a podium here, his first podium of the season, but he wants it to be a P2, but Koz gets it done around the outside. Beautiful driving there from Igor Koz to make that move. To be fair, respect given by James Parker, there's no doubt about it, but Koz committing to that move and now forcing the defence on the inside, and as they come down, well, in fact Parker will look to the inside, switches back there before the braking zone. Parker goes all in. Koz now tries to switch back in return, but Parker retakes P2 there with a little bit of a dummy and a nice return move there from Parker, and these two very even as they head up through the left-hander. But as they make their way on towards turn at number 7, we do say hello to Manama Musa, who says Thomas Cope like gas. Indeed, he's charging away 5.5 seconds up the road. But meanwhile, Parker and Koz here in an absolutely thrilling battle to be the runner-up today. And well, to be fair for them, it's going to feel like a win, because this will be a major haul of championship points for them in the respective gold campaigns. But as they come out of the carousel, 5 minutes still left on the clock, and we have it. Oh my goodness! And that's a nasty incident for Cameron Smith, and I think we've had more than just the one car. Joe Newman seems to have been involved in that incident, as Smith, with a damaged suspension, is taken to the pits. That car will be towed. We will try and understand what exactly happened there very shortly, but it does seem as though a multitude of drivers getting caught up in the incident, including Joe Newman. And in fact, we do have an immediate replay of what happened, and here is what happened in that midfield pack. Well, firstly, 3 wide into turn 5 is always going to be entertaining, and well, then Newman and Smith coming together, and well, Newman to the barrier, and then Smith following on through, and the two drivers sending each other across the road, and that explains what happened to the pair of them, as we'll return to live pictures now. And as they make the way back on the live pictures here through turn on 12 of Canada Corner, this is Humberstone. He has managed to find a way to get close to Eddersford once again. And we should really say that Powell has passed to Eddersford, and in return Humberstone now has a clear shot at his man. He has got the target in his sights, albeit can he pull the trigger and make it a successful shot of victory today? That's the question that's on his mind, indeed the whole of 88 Tech Racing's mind right now. And will either way, whoever wins out of these two, they definitely both deserve it in equal measure. But as they head down towards turn number 1, Eddersford right now trying to make it 2 wins back to back. But meanwhile, Humberstone hot on the brakes into the opening corner. But Eddersford just squeezes the door shut there, saying to Humberstone, you're not going to make that happen, it's too far back. But Humberstone eager to make the pass as much as he dares to dream to do so. But as they come on through, meanwhile, we look to Parker versus Cos, and once again Parker defending out of turn 5, a similar situation to only a lap ago, where Cos got ahead out of turn 3, but Parker got the return move at turn 5, and they've now got Patrick Thompson and Philipp Hammer right behind them. So we can see there that Hammer is really the danger man here, and Hammer needs to try and find his way through for second place as a minimum in order to continue to gain on Cope today in the championship. But he hasn't made as much progress as he wanted to, and as they come on down through the right hand at turns 9 and 10, well, now it is going to be Parker who has to try and hold on for a little bit longer here, and Will Cos throwing everything at this, including the proverbial kitchen sink. But as we look from them to Alex Hiscox versus Wayne Basson, this is a P7 in the silver class, and as they make the way up through at turn number 6 there, well, Hiscox holding on for now. The two of them side by side up through the left-hander at turn number 5, but Hiscox has found the upper hand, albeit for the time being, and the Team Wales driver here eager now to try and press on and take on Jeremy DeBova for P6. There's only a second between them, and he's got the time to do so, given the fact he's got this lap and at least one more as our race leader. As I look at my commentary booth, it's almost there. But meanwhile, speaking of being almost there, it's almost there for Glenn Humberstone on the inside of Eddersford into Canada Corner. They're 2 wide on corner exit, and they're still 2 wide all the way out to 13. Humberstone then trying to go around the outside. Eddersford plants it firmly on the inside and says, you shall not pass. But as they make their way into turn 14, will it be a bit of magic, much like the Wizard of Gandalf from the Lord of the Rings here, or will it be the case that it turns to a bad spell and Eddersford falls, but he seems to find a way to force himself back in front once again? And as they make their way up towards turn number 1, well, right now you've got Marcel Fridge and also their Khalid Ramadan, both battling for gold class positions as they make their way into turn number 1. So they've got a gold battle to drink for as Neil Humberstone goes in. He goes hot, but he goes all in, and it's a phenomenal move from Glenn Humberstone to send it from as far back as he did. And now it's going to be Eddersford who cuts back to the inside here. They're nip and tuck as they come through turn number 3, and as they make their way through the right hand and onwards towards turn 5, again it is Eddersford ahead. It's not over yet as they charge their way down towards turn number 5, and we look to the blimp camera behind. You can see Fritsch and Ramadan side by side. Marcel Fritsch defending to the inside in that battle for P11 in the gold class. But onto the brakes, they'll go in Eddersford. They're parking the car in the middle of the road. He does not want to let Humberstone have any advantage whatsoever. He wants to make it as frustrating as humanly possible. And as they come back around here through turn number 6, well, right now Eddersford having to throw everything in the book here, everything he's learned to give him his advantage, and the Humberstone doing the same. But as they charge their way down towards turn number 8, you can see Humberstone every which way over the back of his rock. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, as my voice does go there for a brief moment, over the back of his rival. And as they come down through turns 9 and 10, right now Eddersford holding on for the brief moment. It does look as though now Eddersford's not got long left in this race, but meanwhile, speaking of drivers who've not got long left in this race, well, Thomas Cope here makes his way out the final corner. And I do believe it's going to be a checker flag here for Olympus Esports Vanguard. We may have missed out on the winning race 1, but he returns the winning race in the round 10 feature at Road America, taking the win in the end by 7 seconds. What a margin ahead of Igor Kos, who finishes P2 as he comes across the line, a second and a half clear of James Parker, who rounds off the gold podium. Philipp Hammer just out drags Patrick Thompson to the line for P4, and it'll be Simon B. Bamber P6 ahead of Daniel Sechi, Danny Lee P8, Jack Atkinson will come through P9, Dean Palby P10. But what about the battle between Eddersford and Glenn Humberstone? Well, Eddersford's done it, ladies and gents, but he holds up Humberstone to the line, and he makes it back-to-back wins here today at Road America. And what a way to do it in style. Glenn Humberstone threw everything at it, but he couldn't quite find it in the end. Khalid Ramadan P13 ahead of Marcel Fritsch P14. Alistair Hatcher just behind, round off the silver podium, P15 there. Third in class at Lee Holmes, and then Adam Greason will shortly come on through to take what is P4 in the silver class ahead of Sean Cranny Swash, Jeremy Dweller and Wayne Basson. And then we can see behind them it'll be Alex Hiscox who crossed the line, shortly followed up by Sean Dobie. And as the field across the line are 30 or so drivers still in this race. Craig Shield P23 ahead of Richard White, with Didi Blame P25 as he makes his way on around. And I believe here it's going to be quite a run before Didi Blame gets to the timeline. But the DBR Bowman Challenge driver having a difficult pair of races today and looking for a bit of redemption next time out as he makes his way up towards the timeline as he heads on through it to cross the line. And well, for the Debo Challenge driver, it will be P12 in the silver class, P25 at the end. We do have one more driver still to cross the timeline, and it will be this man, Steve Hobbs, in a wounded car. But the FR20 Sim Racing spirit lives on, and as he heads in towards turn number 14, well, right now the number 7 driver here, going a bit wide there, and well, losing the rear of the car, and it's not a great end to the race of Steve Hobbs, but hopefully he can get this car at least to the pit lane to be classified and not lose a lap at the end of the day. Well, as he tries to do so here, the car crabbing, but he is going to fight on. He's going to get it to the checkered flag, and that's what we love to see. The number 7 driver there, he may not get any major points today, but he still will get plaudits for the fact he'll bring that car in home and crosses the line in the end at P26, the last of our lead lap finishers. As he crosses the line, meanwhile, we do look to Thomas Cope, who right now gradually making his way up and down the back straight. And I wonder how he'll be feeling after today. He did say, you may remember, Jerez, that Road America was going to be his bogey circuit in the remaining rounds of the season. Given the fact it's not a circuit he is a strong at compared to some of the other circuits we've raced at this season, or we plan to race at. But Cope, to be fair, with a 3rd place in the sprint race, and that all came about only because of a mistake after being in the lead for so long. And then a return to the win and the top step of the podium in our 2nd race of today. I think he'll feel as though, in fact, he has brushed aside the worries and woes of Road America, and it has been a strong showing. But meanwhile, we do have Glenn Humberstone making his way to the pit lane as the ATEC Racing trio there, all side by side, and will Humberstone being flanked by his teammates of Lee Holmes and also Craig Shield. And Humberstone, knowing he gave it everything in that battle for the win of the silver class. And to be fair, one of the highlights of the season. And do let us know, ladies and gentlemen, if it's Glenn Humberstone, alternatively Chris Edison, who took your driver of the day vote. And you can do so using the driver of the day vote link available in the YouTube chat. Once again, remember, votes close at midnight tonight, British summertime, at Universal Coordinated Time +1. Or is it Thomas Cope who's taking your driver of the day vote, or somebody else as Cope there delivering the donuts on the start finish line, showing he's got a little bit of fuel left in the car, and I think that may be why he was going so slowly on his cool down lap to save the fuel. But as the smoke begins to fill our screen, well, let's take a look through those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries, and here they are. So after a thrilling 30 minutes of racing with action left, right and centre, whether it be at the front of the field, the mid portion of the field, or all the way to the back, Thomas Cope taking the win in our 2nd race today for round number 10 of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup Season 7 by 7.1 seconds for Olympus Esports Vanguard over FTR Esports Igor Koz. Igor Koz notching his best result of the season with a 2nd place and a return to the podium. It's been some time since we've seen the German on the podium, but a deserved drive to 2nd. Head of AI Race Summaries DCW Races, James Parker, who also makes his return to the podium after a few seasons, and it's his 1st podium of the season there for the 2-time gold champion. Team Germany's Philipp Hammer, P4 in the number 60, and I think we'll be feeling as though it's not quite worked out after that phenomenal run in the sprint race in order to take the key result. But meanwhile here, he was perhaps hoping for a podium, and it wasn't to be. Patrick Thompson, a further 10th find in that drag race to the finish line, with Thompson just losing out in the end for Olympus Esports Vanguard, but still a top 5 finish. It means his championship championship campaign is well on course to harass and harry Philipp Hammer for second place all the way through it to the end. And then we see Simon B. Bamber P6 there, the UKSimRacing admin team driver, lose that in the mid portion of the race after losing the lead on lap number 2, but still at the same time he'll feel as though that P6 will go a long way in terms of the points he's accrued. Then Daniel Sedgey P7 there for Olympus Esports Titan, 1 second clear of Danny Lee, the privateer, who rounded off the top 10 ahead of Jack Atkinson and Dean Powell, who made it P9, P10 respectively. The privateer of Powell being followed up by your silver class winner, the best of the rest overall in P11, but most importantly for him to make it a double victory today in the silver class, Chris Eddersford for UKSimRacing admin team, hold off Glenda Humberstone by 3/10 to the checkered flag, and the A-Tech Racing driver showing his strengths and definitely coming on strong here at Road America, and that's what we love to see in a great rivalry between the two Britons. Khalid Ramadan P13 ahead of Marcel Fritsch, the SomSport driver, just finishing ahead of the Team Germany driver in their thrilling battle on the last couple of laps. And then Alistair Hatcher P15, but more importantly for him, third place in the silver class. It's a return to the podium for Alistair Hatcher and the A-Tech driver there, rounding out the silver podium of Eddersford, Humberstone and Hatcher. P16, Lee Holmes, the teammate of Hatcher, ahead of Adam Grieveson, with the FR20 Sim Racing driver definitely having another difficult day here today. Grieveson's momentum definitely sliding away, and he'll look to try and arrest that decline in form as soon as possible. But finishing ahead of Sean Cranny-Swash, the 24-hour Punty People driver, unfortunately not able to make further ground, and a late error cost him a potential shot at the podium and seen him finish P5 in the silver class. He'll still be happy with that, there's no doubt about it, but I think he'll feel as though it could have been wins on the cards today. Jeremy Doerr, P19, the DBR Bowman Challenge driver, definitely taking a hit to his championship lead as of these 2 rounds, as will Wayne Baston's advantage in the top 5 of the championship. The P20 driver there for FR20 Sim Racing at 9, it's not been his day. Alex Hiscock's P21 for Team Wales ahead of Sean Dobie, with Craig Shield P23 ahead of Richard White, and then we see D.D. Valami and Steve Hobbs rounding out our top 26, and with it our top finish, well in fact all of our finishers on the lead lap. And then finishing a lap down, Lucas Romano, Cameron Smith and Paul Joseph Clist, with Joe Newman completed our top 30 and finishing 3 laps down there for Empire Motorsport. Chris France the same, P31 for CS Sim Racing UK, and also Emil Koopmans P32 for Apex Missers. And then Jeremy Story P33, 7 laps down. He will be classified as a race finisher, given the fact he did complete half the race distance of 14 laps. And then it will be the 2 retirees after the open lap of Corey Lazarus and Nathan Foster, who will not be classified as race finishers as they did not complete over half the race distance. But still, what a race, ladies and gentlemen, and well, we are not quite done with today's broadcast. For whilst all the racing may have concluded, we've still got our post-round interviews to come. But just before we do cut away to those, we'd just like to remind you that if you have been enjoying the racing today, the first thing you definitely must do for us is give a like on the YouTube broadcast to do let us know how much you've enjoyed it. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, we'd just like to remind you the only way you can stay up to date and be notified of these broadcasts is through subscribing to the UKSimRacing YouTube channel. But also, if you have been enjoying the racing and you've been wondering how you can potentially support UKSimRacing outside the channel, did you know there is a quick way to do so via our affiliates? For UKSimRacing is affiliated with multiple sim racing and real-world motorsport companies, including Swilly Omeda Sim Racing Coaching and also Amazon. And if you head to our website, that's uksimracing.co.uk today, and it will appear on screen very shortly. In fact, there it is. There's a link to our Discord in the top right corner of the screen. You can see it there clearly with the Discord logo. And why would you want to join the Discord of UKSimRacing? Well, firstly, if you ever want to be on the grid for any of our series or one-off events, it is a mandatory requirement to be on the Discord. That way you can attend the driver briefings and also receive all of the latest league and event information in a timely fashion. But also, secondly, only available on our Discord are a number of discount codes which have been made available by our affiliates. And if you use one of those discount codes as part of a purchase, well, it does mean that you get a win for the simple reason you'll be getting a discount on your purchase. But we here at the UK Sim Racing community also get a major win in the fact we are a non-profit organisation, so every penny we make from our affiliate earnings shall be invested back into the community to fund future series, including future seasons of the Porsche Cup, the GT3 League, and we've got plenty more planned for 2023 and onwards as we continue to go from strength to strength. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, do make sure that if you can, support us, as a little purchase can go a long way in supporting UK Sim Racing. But what's also going to go a long way right now is to give my voice a little bit of a breather, as it almost fell short there right at the end of the race, and we'll be back in approximately 10 to 12 minutes time for our post-round interviews. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss them. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is now time for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. And today we've had 3 drivers come forward to volunteer their time to tell us the story of their days. We're going to be starting off with our feature race winner in the gold class and gold championship leader still after today's performances, and that'll be Olympus Esports Vanguard's Thomas Cope. We'll then be hearing from Chris Eddersford, the double silver class winner today for the UKSimRacing admin team, and what has been perhaps his highlights of the season thus far. And then we'll be hearing from Danny Lee, the privateer, who in the gold class gave it everything to take his first top 5 of the season in the sprint race. Fell a little bit short of the top 5 again in the feature race, but still took a valiant P8 and enjoyed the batting every step of the way. Without further ado, we now have coming into the interview room Thomas Cope, who joins me. And as we welcome it into the interview room, Thomas, what a phenomenal evening from yourself in terms of battling back and forth with Philipp Hammer, your main championship rival. And you said going into this round this was going to be perhaps your bogey circuit for the remainder of the season, but you managed to notch a win in the feature race and could have been the sprint if it weren't for a small mistake. So quite a positive outcome, all things considered.
Yeah, all in all, coming into the round, I didn't expect this type of result, but it keeps the championship going strong, scoring more points than P2 and Philipp Hammer, so we'll keep taking it into every race, and obviously we've got a lot of heat racing coming in thick and fast for the next couple of rounds, so we'll just keep trying to knock off those points like we did tonight, and hopefully try and wrap up the season a little bit early. We'll see.
Well, indeed, we've still got a way to go. It's not over yet. And starting off at Road America today in a qualifying session that looked relatively close. For a good amount of time, you were a provisional pole sitter until Hammer invested it all in a single lap to take pole by 2.5 attempts. How do you feel your qualifying session specifically went?
I felt all right. I know the single lap is more the optimal strategy to get the faster lap in. The second lap of the Porsche Cup is always the better qualifying lap. But I just don't trust myself, especially on this track today that we had at Road America. I didn't have the confidence to go for the 1 lap pace. I mean, congratulations to Philipp. I mean, he had a great race in race 1 and the mega result in qualifying for himself. So, yeah, it just shows what happens when you have a 1 lap pace over a 2 lap pace. Both laps for me were really good and I pushed the max out of it. But yeah, it's just that 1 lap pace really that stands out above the 2 laps.
Well, it was the difference of a single lap in qualifying that saw you qualify P2, and then going into the sprint race, we saw you go on the offensive immediately off the line, albeit it looked as though it was a bit of a dead heat between yourself and Philipp into turn 1, but you kept the pressure on, and well, very shortly after, found the lead on turn number 5.
Yeah, I wanted to try and take the fight to Philipp quite early. It was a very good opening couple of laps. I felt like I had the good understanding on the early tyre wear, knowing how hard I could push them to really make that move early. So yeah, just good close fighting between myself and Philipp, as it has been all season really. I think we've both got a really good understanding of how each other drive right now.
Oh, indeed, and we saw that initial battle, and for the most of the sprint race afterwards, we saw you constantly being hounded and chased down by Philipp, and then in the closing laps, your first smallest mistake we have seen in the season, but it was a pivotal one.
Yeah, obviously mistakes can cost races, and quite clearly them. But well, essentially could be my first mistake of the season. Did cost me that sprint race win, but yeah, Philipp was on my rear end all race, and he wasn't going to relieve the pressure. So it was going to come down to the wire, whether it was going to be a slipstream and a 2 wide up to the finish line, or a mistake from myself or a mistake from Philipp. And yeah, the former happened, and it was a mistake from myself. But yeah, we managed to keep the podium at least, keeping the streak of podiums in every race for myself so far. So we've got that going at least.
Oh, indeed, it's a phenomenal streak as it continues throughout the rounds. And speaking of the round that followed, round number 10, the feature race, we saw you starting from what was P6 on the grid and making some early progress as we look back at some of the replay footage now. I suspect your strategy may have been to try and get into the lead as soon as possible and leave Hammer behind.
Well, I knew I had a good 2 set of cars between myself and Hammer. Well, 1 car at least between myself and Hammer. I knew Patrick was there. And Patrick has got some great pace. I know he's struggled to do it recently, but he's a phenomenal driver. He just needs to get his head in the game and focus back in. But I knew Patrick was going to do a good job to fight with Philipp early on, so I knew the sooner I could make the moves and start coming through the field, the easier throughout the race it could get to defend that win.
And as time went on in the race, we started to see you make that progress at the pivotal P1, making the move on lap 7 versus James Parker. And then from that point onwards, it looked as though the gap was naturally growing, albeit having to be mindful of the tyre life.
Yeah, I was really careful on the tyres early on, knowing it's not as bad as Jerez and some of the tracks we've been to, especially in the endurance rounds, but there's some fast corners and some long corners around here at Road America. So you do use up a lot of tyres there. I was just being careful on the tyres early on, so that I could utilise them in the overtakes where they came, and so on. So especially like getting past like Simon and Emil and Parker in the end, I didn't force the mistakes from them or force the moves. I just waited for the opportune moment where I had a good run or they made a slight mistake.
That patience really playing its part and giving you the opportunity to preserve the car. And then for the remainder of the race, pretty much the second half of the race, we saw you gradually build an advantage that would never close in the end and see you take victory by just over 7 seconds. Quite a resounding margin, a well-managed race, and I think really a sign of things to come as the season now heads into its final third.
Yeah, it's showing some good pace towards the end. I know they were the 4 cars behind me, P2, 3, 4, and 5, were having a really good, fierce fight. So, yeah, I knew I could stretch the gap there. So, yeah, ultimately just be able to show my own pace and walk away and have the substantial lead at the end.
Well, with that in mind, and the championship lead continuing to stay in your hands at this time, in a week's time we make our way to Canada for the circuit Charles Villeneuve in Montreal. How are you feeling for the circuit that has the infamous Wall of Champions?
Well, hopefully the name doesn't live up to it, but I'm not a champion of UKSR yet, so we'll leave it at that one. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Gilles Villeneuve. I've got a lot of track time there in other races, so I'm hoping I can stimulate that to this league next Thursday and keep the streak going. But ultimately, it's just how I came into this round. It's just knocking points on the board now. I think I've got like a 55-point lead on the championship after today's race. So it's just ultimately trying to keep scoring the points I am and staying up in the podium positions for the rest of the season. And if it comes down to that final race, which is still up in the air if I'm here or not, we'll just have to wait and see, really.
We do look forward to seeing you continue that potential podium streak and that advantage at the top of the table in a week's time in Canada. But just before we do let you go, Thomas, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, as always, yourself, the amazing broadcast. I love watching them back in post and seeing the moments that you create for all those drivers on the track. All the league admins, they do an amazing job behind the scenes, getting everything running and keeping all the points as up to date as possible. And so on and so forth. They all know who they are. Charles, for even putting us on the grid, Charles Michel, he's the one that gets us here and puts us on track, and all the teammates on track and everyone we practice with, and just the future of Olympus, really, that are really helping out. And the family, I know they're all watching in the living room, and cousins and mother and father, they're all here watching along. So, yeah, to everyone there.
Well, it's fantastic to hear you've got all the family behind you, whether it be the Olympus Esports family or your personal family. But with that, congratulations once again on another double podium today. And what a performance in the feature race to take the win there and continue to extend your advantage to now 53 points provisionally. We look forward to seeing whether you can extend that even further in Canada a week from now. But until then, Thomas, have a lovely evening and congratulations once again.
Thank you very much, Paul.
So hearing there from Thomas Cope, the Olympus Esports Vanguard gold driver, who really today set again the gold standard when it came to consistency across all 3 of the parts of today. Qualifying, missing out on pole, but to be fair, deciding to go for the safer approach of 2 laps on the board versus the more daring and risky approach that Hammer used of a single lap and that sole investment. And imagine if Hammer had made a single mistake, he wouldn't have been on pole, he could have been a long way down the order, but that's the risk you take. And with Cope deciding to play it safe, put himself P2 on the grid, and to be fair, right alongside his rival, his key rival in the championship, and battling hard, and will taking the lead after only it was the opening lap, and to see it slip out of his fingers with a very small mistake. And as he even alluded to, his first notable mistake this season, and mistakes can cost victories, and it is his first mistake that has cost him one of his first victories here at Road America. But it wasn't to be in the second race, where he found his way through the field quite ferociously, albeit managing the car all the way through, and after taking the lead, leaving the rest of the field behind to scrap for P2, P3, and taking a victory in the end, which was a certainty by 7 seconds. And for the Olympus Esports Vanguard driver of Thomas Cope, it is looking as though that championship is coming closer and closer, albeit the World Champions beckons in a week's time, and he'll be doing well to try to avoid hitting it. As we now come on to our second interview of the day, we'll very shortly be hearing from Chris Eddersford, the silver double winner today for UKSimRacing admin team, and we'll get to hear his perspective, and I suspect his exhaustion on what is two absolutely phenomenal races over the course of the racing here at Road America. And also we'll get to hear his perspective on qualifying as he joins me now in the interview room. Good evening to you, Chris. And well, I think you must be speechless or flabbergasted, depending on your preference of word. 2 victories back to back. A phenomenal result at Road America and a huge result in your championship campaign.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm very tired as well. It's so hot in this room. But yeah, absolutely loved it. It's really good.
Oh, indeed. And we'll come on to you being hot under the pressure with regards to the feature race in due course. But starting with qualifying, P17 on the overall grid, P3 in class. It looked as though the qualifying session in the end was relatively settled until right at the end of the session, Sean Craney Swash came out of nowhere to put himself P9 on the grid with the silver pole lap. An advantage in the end of what was, I do believe, 3 attempts. Do you feel as though perhaps pole position slipped out your hands today, or was it always going to be a battle up through the grid in the race?
No, I think Sean's lap was a good one. I actually messed up a little bit in that I went for a double out lap, and so they only got one race or one quali lap. So I did not nail it. It was okay, but I actually, for some reason, had got the maths wrong and thought that I would be able to get a double out lap and then 2 fast laps. The second lap is always faster, but no, I was well off. So no, it was a good, really good lap from Sean, and I think Chris Rance was up there as well. So credit to them too.
Oh, indeed. And Rance being P2 on the grid at P11 overall. And yourself P17, so some places to be gained. And will early on in the sprint race, after a relatively calm start, those places suddenly seem to fall into your lap.
Yeah, I think Sean dipped a tyre on the grass on the last corner and span, and I think he hit Chris Rance. That's, I've not seen it back yet, but that's what it looked like from my view. And then I actually got smacked in the back when I slowed down. So I was actually lucky to not be joining them two, to be honest with you, which gave me a little bit of damage. But yeah, I think it's just the luck was on my side. It's not been on the luck's not been on my side this season so far, really. So it's nice for it to join me for once.
Oh, indeed. It's always good when Lady Luck does smile on yourself, and taking the victory in the sprint race by 8 seconds the end, and also your first top 10 overall, a P10 overall. It must have felt quite special to be on the top step of the silver class podium and also pick up overall points effectively.
Yeah, I was just got my head down. I saw that the incidents had happened in front of me. I was hoping to try and track Sean and Chris down, but it was only a 12-minute race, so it's not easy to do, really. But once the incident happened, I kind of was communicating with my teammates. Simon was saying, you know, just stay where you are. You're in a good position. And I just really took my foot off the gas, really, and just made sure that I didn't make a mistake and secured the W.
Well, 1 win secured, and then looking for another in the feature race. And well, it looked as though it was a relatively comfortable start in the fact you very quickly started to pull away from your rival Steve Hobbs and also Cameron Smith behind. But then Glenn Humberstone starts to inch closer as the race goes on.
Yeah, the plan really was just to try and stay with the gold drivers. if I could, but they're just too fast for me. If I would have pushed to stay with them, it would have been likely that I would have ended up in the wall, to be honest with you. So I noticed that I got a bit of a gap, but couldn't hold on to a toe. So just tried to do my own thing a little bit. And then, yeah, I noticed that Glenn was pretty damn quick. In this race, for sure, he's certainly a lot quicker than what I was. So then I just went into absolute defence mode, as you probably all saw.
Or indeed, one of the highlights of the racing today. I think many tuned in will agree with me, and well, whether you're defending on the inside or the outside into turn 1, at turn 5 making your car as wide as possible elsewhere around the lap, it looked as though Glenn was forcing you to throw every little bit of knowledge and experience and also your understanding of the rules of overtaking at him, and well, in the end managing to hold on. But I can imagine it must have been uncomfortable, and it must have made the car feel ever more on the limit.
Oh yeah, it was on the limit. There were several instances where we got 0x's, pushed on the straight. We did collide on the straight. I've not seen the broadcast back yet, so I don't know whether it caught it, but we did get very sideways at one point. It was interesting, but Glenn kept it really clean actually. I think there was one moment where he sent it into turn 1 and I knew he was going to overshoot the corner, so I let him go and then got him back on the cutback. But there was several moments where, if I'm being honest with you, where I thought I've lost it. And I'm not sure, but I'm pretty certain that if I did lose the position, then I think he would have just driven away, because he was quicker for sure.
It wasn't quite to go that way. Instead, it stayed in your favour after a valiant defence and just finding enough to stay ahead by 3 attempts at the finish line. And well, I do believe your first double winner in class in your UKSimRacing Porsche Cup career, and also I think this season, correct me if I'm wrong, your first wins of the season. It's a great time to be at Road America.
Yeah, first wins, first double win, first win in UKSR for a long time, probably 2 years, I would say. So, yeah, I'm happy.
Oh, indeed. And with this result now, moving yourself all the way up to P2 in the Silver Class Championship on 117 points, and really striking into the lead of Jeremy Debova. The gap now down to 23 points, albeit we do have to keep in mind that Debova effectively has a drop score in hand already. But still, you're bringing the gap down, the pace is coming, and now we've only got, 5 more rounds to go. Is the future looking bright?
Yeah, I think Jeremy's in a class of his own, but I'm going to try and track him down. I need many more results like today to be able to do it, but I'm going to give it a good shot, and I do like the look of the circuits that are coming up, so hopefully it works out.
Well, indeed, and we do start with the Montreal circuit, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And well, are we expecting a phenomenal result from yourself? Is it a circuit that you enjoy?
I've done it a few times in GT3. I've not done it in P-Cup, so it's not a circuit that I don't like. It's not like Jerez, where I've never raced around the circuit at all. So hopefully it should be similar to this week's track or Road Atlanta, that kind of pace. So hopefully good.
Well, we do look forward to seeing you take on the Canadian circuit a week from tonight. But just before we do let you go, Chris, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, the rest of the admin team, the stewarding team, the broadcast team, including yourself, all do a great job. So much time goes into preparing everything, and I'd like to say a thank you to my teammates today, who kept me under control and was using some of that experience to pass on to me a little bit and keep me calm, and Glenn, because Glenn was really clean with his racing, and I think depth perception is difficult in sim racing, and I think we got it right today. It could have easily ended up in tears, and we both would have ended up with no points. So thanks to Glenn for keeping it clean.
Well, I think Glenn will appreciate that, and I do see him there in the YouTube chat saying, great race tonight, guys. I think he enjoyed it. But with that, Chris, thank you very much for joining me in the interview this evening. Congratulations once again on your double win and your first wins in your UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup career. A fantastic result, and well, we look forward to seeing whether you can follow up with another win or two next time out in Canada. But until then, have a fantastic night.
Thanks, Paul. Speak soon.
So hearing there from Chris Eddersford, the 888 Silver Class driver, absolutely on point today. And well, interesting to hear his thoughts on qualifying firstly, and the fact that it didn't quite work out in going for that single lap, and the miscalculation that he thought he had 2 fast laps available after 2 out laps. And well, with that miscalculation in mind, then having to invest it all in a lap that wasn't perfect, but still good enough for P3 in the class. And when the margin was 3 tenths between himself and the lap that was put together by Sean Cranley-Swash, with Chris Rance only a tenth off that lap, where it really does go to articulate just how close it is in the silver class over a single lap, and when we come to the races, how close it is over race distance, where it be sprint, feature, endurance. And well, in the sprint race, luck being on Chris's side today, not having much luck earlier on in the season, but with the road being cleared for him after that instant out of the final corner, which saw his main 2 rivals of Sean Cranley-Swash and also was Chris Rance out of the running, it meant that Chris was able to take the lead and never look back. But meanwhile, in the feature race, he had to look back constantly, as after putting some distance between himself and the drivers who started around him, he then had Glenn Humberstone closing fast, and Humberstone, as we went on to see, and we're starting to see it again here in the replay footage, really keeping them honest and going for some absolutely brilliant side-by-side battling. Some of the finest we have seen, not just in this season, but I would argue in the history of the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup. I mean, it's all down to the testament and skill of the 2 drivers there, and indeed we hope that may continue as we make our way to Canada in a week's time. Now coming on to our final interview of this evening, we'll very shortly be hearing from Danny Lee to see us off this evening, and what a day it has been for Danny Lee as well, in the fact back and forth battling over the course of both races, and also having one of his strongest qualifying performances so far. He always talks about things going from strength to strength, and we're going to hear a little bit more about that very shortly as he gets ready to join me in the interview room. In fact, I think he is good to go, and he does join me now. And as we welcome Danny into the interview room, Danny, we always talk about every time with yourself how things are improving and getting better, and today was no exception. A P7 in qualifying, your first top 5 with a 5th place in the sprint race, and then a P8 in the feature race, which was absolutely thick and furious with battles. It looks like you enjoyed it at Road America, and with a new livery to boot as well.
Yeah, that was a couple of really fun races. Race 1 kind of got caught in an air sandwich after the initial flurry was over, because once you get separate with the front pack, there's not a lot you can really do. So you just got to stick it where you are and try not to lose ground. So race 1 was a good result, but not a lot to write home about. But race 2, the feature, battling all the way. I really enjoyed having some fights with people that I wouldn't normally see, because I wouldn't normally catch the reverse grid at all. They took some chunks out of me, but they had to fight for every single bite they took, and I really enjoyed it. It was great. It was great here tonight.
Well, indeed, and starting off with the qualifying session, in the end taking P7 on the grid, and we have heard from our previous interviewees with regards to the fact there's the gamble of either going for the single lap, alternatively the 2 lap, with the single fast lap being riskier but potentially faster. How did you see it in qualifying?
I feel like there was more in the car, but when it's a couple of chances at all you've got, you tend to be a little bit reserved, because you want that banker lap, and then before you know it, because it's such a long lap around Road America, your time is up. So I expected to get 3, maybe 4 laps in. Maybe it's bad timekeeping on my part, but after the second lap, to discover that that's all you've got, you were just glad to have a safe lap in. So I could have gone faster, but it was riskier. Obviously, I don't like to risk it, because it's always fell against me when I've tried to take a bit too much out. And in this car, you really can't. You've got to get that safe lap in and then just try and sort it out in the race.
And speaking about sorting things out in a race, race 1 saw you make some early progress on the grid, indeed battling with Patrick Thompson into the opening corner. And after everything started to settle down, like you say, the field spread out to a degree, but you wasted no time in making sure that you were at the head of your respective pack.
Yeah, it was a shame I couldn't keep it with the lead pack on race 1, but It was just a couple of little mistakes. A very, very understeery car into turn 1 on lap 2, and that's all that you really need to suffer to be sort of shook loose. You know, if you're a hanger on, if you're a leaf stuck to somebody's shoe in the lead pack, all we need to do is wiggle it a little bit, and you've been left behind. So sad to leave them. I feel like a few more laps and we would have been a bit more chaos. I think I pipped somebody right at the end. I can't remember who, but the last lap battles in race 1 fell into my favour and gave me that, gifted me that place back that I was really hunting for the whole race. So you got to keep in with a hunt, but you've also got to rely on the guys ahead fighting with each other, because in pace alone, they can't be matched. They're just rapid.
Indeed, and making reference to just pipping James Parker to the post come the checker flag in race number 1. And then coming into race number 2, being part of that reverse grid for the first time this season, if my memory does serve me correctly. And in the end, starting what was P4 on the grid. So practically where you finished, albeit one place higher. And early on in the race, we got to see you put on some absolutely brilliant battling, albeit it looks like they did take quite a chunk out of your rear bumper.
Yeah, Thomas accidentally nudged the rear bumper on lap 1, turn 1, so it was kind of. I don't think it affected me, to be fair. Although it looked bad, I don't think it really slowed me down at all. I was running an extra couple of clicks rear wing, because I find that does give me the confidence to really attack the car way more than it does if you give it minimum wing. So once I was separated from the pack, once I'd been battled through, once the sort of lead pack had gotten past me, maybe 5, 6, 7 laps in, I was then vulnerable to people because I was on my own then after that. But it was a really, really fun feature race. I loved fighting with Patrick, Philipp Hammer, basically everybody. But it's normally your usual top 6 usual suspects. I loved having to defend against them, making them work for it. I'm pretty sure none of them just breezed past. It was always going to be a few corners fighting, and I guess in the end I just pushed my luck a little bit too much into that turn 4 or turn 3 tight left-hander and snatched the front left with a little bit of a lock of the brake, and in order to sort of save Simon Bamber from getting clattered in the side of the car, I kind of, a heroic act of self-sacrifice, I just backed out the brake and just tried to steam on and slice through the gap between, I think it was him and Patrick. So loved the battling in the first half of the race, but the second half of the race was just a matter of attrition, just trying to keep it together until we got to the end, and just enjoying it while I could.
Oh, indeed, and well, you always seem to be enjoying it out there. It doesn't matter whether you're winning or alternatively battling for the midfield positions, and I would echo your sentiment there, really in the thick of it, and nobody finds it easy to pass you. And well, with today's results, and now looking at the updated championship standings, I can tell you that in the gold class, that you still hold on to P7 there, and are gradually trying to close down the top 5. We head to Canada in a week's time for the circuit Charles Villeneuve. How are you feeling for the infamous circuit on its Wall of Champions?
I've always loved Montreal and always performed well relative to par at Montreal, so I'm looking forward to that. It really gels well with me. I love the track. It's a really fun track to race on, and also has a lot of plenty of overtaking opportunities as well, and areas whereby if you just have the knack for it, you can really close the gap on people that you otherwise shouldn't really be caught fighting. So I'm really looking forward to it, and every week that goes by, I'm feeling more and more comfortable with the car. Now I'm making little tweaks to the setup because I know how I like it, and that's all serving to make it a strong qualifying and, more importantly, a strong race car to have. So I am enjoying it and loving it every single week.
And just a quick bit about the car itself. We see you're running a new livery today. Is there any special significance giving up the old red and white colours that we know you for?
It's time for a change. Wrapping the car in the new livery is a preparation for a video being sort of built. So yeah, time to shed the red one that that was only ever meant to be a placeholder for a previous video that I produced. So time to clothe it in something new with a True Brake AXE Sim livery. Obviously I've been repping them and bigging them up quite a bit recently because I'm still running that. I'm still impressed by it, and until the season ends, I'll be wearing those colours for a while whilst that video is being produced, and also while I'm running in the league. So yeah, it's nice to have a bit of a change. I normally run in red. Let's go for a blue this time.
Well, it's always good to change things up, and it's a lovely looking livery, I must say. But just before we do let you go, Danny, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
A shout out to the rest of the grid. Obviously, there was some quality battles up and down in both races. I've got to pay homage to them, because that's what we turn up for. You want to race in the league because you want to get to know people and fight with them. So thanks to them. Credit to them. Also to yourself for running the broadcast. You do a great job, and to the league admins for putting it all together and giving us something to come together and race with every week. So thank you, everyone.
Well, Danny, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room this evening. Congratulations once again on your performances across both of the races and qualifying. We look forward to seeing plenty more from you in Montreal in a week's time. But until then, have a lovely evening, and thank you once again.
Looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Cheers.
So hearing there from Danny Lee, our final interview for today, and the privateer in the 188 Golden Machine, really enjoying the racing around here, and you can hear that enjoyment, that excitement in talking about the battles in qualifying in the M and taking a P7, and how really started to fine-tune the car. And the point being there about the fact he now knows where he can start to tune the car in order to maximise its potential in qualifying, and most importantly in the races. And in the sprint race, picking up the P5, hoping to hold on to the leaders, but making a couple of mistakes which cost him dear, and therefore risked him losing out the opportunity of trying to battle for the top four. But then going into the second race today, the first half of the feature race, really enjoying the tooth nail battling with the drivers coming through from behind. And that goes to show you just how far he's come as well, given the fact in the early part of the season, when in fact all the way up to this point he's never been in the reverse grid pool, but finally finished inside the top 8 in the sprint, gave him that opportunity, and it's an opportunity he seized upon. And we look forward to seeing whether he can pull off an even stronger set of results in Montreal a week from now. And my gut feeling says we could very soon be seeing the best from Danny Lee. We haven't quite seen it yet. I think he is building up to crescendo, and we'll all be excited when it does emerge onto screen. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. And indeed, thank you to all three of our interviewees. And just to remind you who they were, once again, we started off with Thomas Cope, the Olympus Esports Vanguard Gold driver. We then heard from the Silver Class double winner today of UKSimRacing admin team's Chris Eddersford in the 888. And then lastly, we just heard from the 188 machine, the Gold driver of Danny Lee in the Privateer category. Congratulations to all three of the drivers, and thank you to them all for joining me in the interview room. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, just before we do wrap up, we'd like to remind you, do not forget to vote for your driver of the day. Link has been reposted in the YouTube chat one final time. Vote close once again at midnight tonight. That's British Summer Time or Universal Coordinated Time at +1. But with that vote in mind, it is now time for us to wrap up. So thank you very much for watching. And if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the UK sim racing community, perhaps you're sat there right now thinking that you want to be on the grid for an ongoing season, or alternatively an upcoming season of the series we have to offer, whether it be the Porsche Cup Season 8, or alternatively perhaps Season 12 of the GT3 League, or anything else that we do have on our cards on agenda in the future. We can find out all about our ongoing series and what's upcoming by firstly going to our official website, and that website again is uksimracing.co.uk. You saw it pop up earlier on the broadcast today, and head there to find out all the information you need. But if you don't want to go to our website, or if you're more of a social media person, you can of course follow us on our Twitter, and that's at twitter.com/UKSimRacing_. We can also keep up to date with all the latest episodes and escapades of the official UK Sim Racing esports teams. We'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our affiliates, starting with Swello Meadows Sim Racing Coaching, and with the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist, Swello Meadows Sim Racing Coaching can help take your sim racing driving to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swello Meadows has a coaching course to meet your needs. Plus, with Swello being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, including the 2021 PSCC, you know you're receiving coaching from the very best in the industry. We also have Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment, and to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. Demon Tweaks, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide, so no matter what your level of discipline, Demon Tweaks can help drive you to realize your motorsport ambitions. SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high-quality sim racing-related hardware, as a proud partner of Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports and make SimLab the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. Amazon, the company striving to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work for the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon. They include one-click shopping, Amazon Web Services, and Amazon Fire TV. And lastly, the SRC Driver Academy, a division of SimRacing Community. Elevate your SimRacing skills with SRC Driver Academy. Their team of experienced professionals is dedicated to helping you reach your full potential without compromising on quality. But why choose SRC Driver Academy? To put it simply, affordable, quality coaching. They have experienced coaches who provide valuable insights to the competitive edge. They make high quality coaching accessible to all at an affordable cost tailored to meet your needs and goals. You can learn race strategies, precision driving and much more, and they offer virtual coaching sessions at nearly all hours of the day every day, ensuring flexibility for all. So join SLC Driver Academy today and unlock your true sim racing potential. Visit their website to learn more and accelerate your sim racing career. But now, ladies and gents, we look ahead to next time. We head into the final third of the season, and it all starts with rounds 11 and 12 at the circuit Charles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada, on Thursday, the 17th of August 2023. The walls will loom close, the chicanes will be plentiful, and we've got many a straight as well at the power circuit. But the question is, who is going to thunder their way to victory at what could be perhaps the most critical point of the season, as now the championships are starting to come into their final stage? We'll find out then. But until then, we have been UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.